Chapter 217. Clang clang. The opponent raised his shield again to protect his whole body. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes. Seeing that the opponent was already less than 10 meters away from her, she immediately raised her arm and shouted, "Hurl the stones!" Luo Yu led a group of strong men to hurl the stones. Instantly, the sky seemed to be covered by the stones. The moment the huge stones smashed the shields of the flying Mount Camp soldiers, they were badly mutilated. Not only that, Lin Muyu flew down the city wall. Lin Muyu dashed down the city wall with the golden gourd walls protecting her body. Her long sword left her hand and circled around rapidly. Suddenly, a dragon flame spiral pierced through the crowd of the flying Mount Battalion. The dragon spirit sword was so sharp that it pierced through the shields and armors, instantly drawing a stream of blood. Lin Muyu brandished her fists and sent 2 cavalrymen flying along with their shields with 2 punches. She then grabbed the dragon spirit sword that was spinning towards her and swept it horizontally, breaking an entire row of shields with a cracking sound. She even mercilessly chopped off the cavalrymen's arms. "Assassinate!" Long Qianlin shouted. One by one, the cavalrymen moved their shields away and pierced the walls of Lin Muyu's gourd with their spears. Instantly, the light was dense and ripples were formed. Each ripple meant that a portion of Lin Muyu's battle energy was consumed. "This won't do. We can't fight a protracted battle like this." Lin Muyu quickly retreated, and the gourd vines quickly wrapped around the stone wall. She quickly climbed up and shouted in a low voice, "Hurl the spears!" Hundreds of mercenaries from the Longdan army camp on the fortress also raised their spears and hurled them down. The stones had already disrupted the opponent's formation, and this round of throwing spears killed nearly 100 of them. In the blink of an eye, less than 700 of the 1,000 soldiers from the flying Mount camp were left, and many of them were injured by the flying arrows. Long Qianlin was distressed. How could he continue fighting? He shouted in a low voice, "Everyone come back. Prepare the fire oil trucks." Fire oil trucks? Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She sighed inwardly. This Long Qianlin was truly vicious. It was winter and the vegetation had withered. If he used fire to attack, then wouldn't this fire axe mountain really turn into a volcano? "No, I can't let the 10,000 soldiers of the Tianchong army and the Longdan army camp die with me." Pressing her hand on the ice-cold stone wall, Lin Muyu shouted from a distance, "Long Qianlin, I've received the imperial order to annihilate the chivalrous inn. Do you really want to exterminate us, the imperial army? A day ago I had already sent a letter to Lanyan City to ask for help, and Commander Feng Jixing will soon lead 50,000 troops to reinforce. Do you want to be enemies with Feng Jixing or the Empire?" Long Qianlin's face was gloomy as he said, "Lin Muyu, it is a fact that you have killed the soldiers of Yunzhong Commandery. Just this point is enough to make you unable to be the general of the South. When General Feng Jixing arrives, this general will naturally explain the whole story to him." He still had some fear. After all, some things couldn't be said out loud. He also didn't want Lin Muyu and the others to divulge certain information. Lin Muyu was as clear as a blazing fire. She smiled and said, "General Long, when I went up the mountain, I discovered that the dog thief Guan Longxing was secretly mining the gold mine in the mountain. I've already killed him. I believe that Governor Hu Tianning of the Five Valleys City still doesn't know about this matter. I advise you to immediately withdraw your troops. In this case, I will give the credit of discovering this gold mine to Governor Hu Tianning. What do you think?" Long Qianlin was instantly stunned. What he feared the most was that Lin Muyu's conviction that Hu Tianning had colluded with the chivalrous into secretly mint coins would be exposed. However, Lin Muyu's words were completely exonerating Hu Tianning. What an extremely intelligent Lin Muyu! Long Qianlin secretly praised in his heart. He raised his head and asked, "Madam Lin Muyu, did you really not intentionally shoot the soldiers of Yunzhong Commandery? If this is really the case, then this battle was a misunderstanding." Lin Muyu spread out her hands and looked like an old friend reminiscing about the old days. She smiled and said, "General Long, do you still not trust me? I, Lin Muyu, am the Emperor's adopted son and the commander of the Imperial Guard's Eagle Guard. Moreover, this group of dog thieves from the chivalrous inn had secretly mined the gold mine. Many soldiers and I witnessed it with our own eyes. As long as I return to the imperial capital, this credit will definitely belong to Governor Hu Tianning. Consider it as me returning a favor to you and thanking you for not killing them." Long Qianlin nodded. "All right, I will go back and discuss this with the governor. Madam Lin Muyu, please wait here for a moment." "All right." In the main tent of the flying Mount camp, Hu Tianning was still enjoying a cup of fragrant tea. Suddenly Long Qianlin opened the tent door and entered. He said, "Madam, I'm back. Oh, it's Qianlin. What's the result? Long Qianlin looked a little ashamed. He said, Lin Muyu used his troops wisely. This general was unable to conquer Fire Axe Mountain in a short period of time. However, Lin Muyu said that he found out that Guan Longxing had secretly mined the gold mine. From his words, he didn't seem to have the slightest suspicion that Madame was involved in this matter. Is that so? Hu Tianning squinted his eyes and said, this Lin Muyu is simply extremely intelligent. It is not a good thing to have such a person stay by His Majesty's side. Qianlin, what do you think we should do now? Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said, Darren, Lin Muyu said that he had already sent a letter to Lanyan City to ask for reinforcements. Feng Jixing will be leading 50,000 troops and will arrive in a few days. Even though I do not know if it is true or false, but Qianlin thinks that killing Lin Muyu on Fire Axe Mountain would remove a big worry in his heart, but at the same time offend Feng Jixing in the imperial capital. It is inevitable that the matter of the coinage will be leaked. In my opinion, it is better to let go of Lin Muyu this time. There will be plenty of opportunities to kill him. Qianlin guarantees to Darren that the next time, I will not let Lin Muyu have any hope of survival. Hu Tianning laughed heartily. Qianlin, are you appreciating Lin Muyu? Long Qianlin was startled. Darren, I did not. It doesn't matter. Let's go. Follow me to welcome the Emperor's godson down the mountain. Yes. At the foot of Fire Axe Mountain, the flag was flying. Hu Tianning was escorted by a group of flying mount camp soldiers to the foot of the mountain. The corpses that were left behind from the previous battle had all been removed, as if this conflict had never happened. Creak, the wooden door that had just been built opened. Lin Muyu brought Wei Chou, Luo Yu, Qiying and the rest down the mountain. Lin Muyu was still all right as she had a smile on her face, but the three generals behind her had a vigilant look on their faces. Their right hands were placed on the hilt of their swords at their waist, as if they were ready to fight at any time. The fortress behind them was densely packed with soldiers from the Longdan army camp who were ready to fight at any time. Darren, we will stop here. Long Qianlin reached out to restrain Hu Tianning's warhorse, indicating that he should not go any further. If he went any further, he would enter the shooting range of the Longdan army camp's archers. Long Qianlin had personally experienced the accuracy and arm strength of the dozens of godly archers in the Longdan army camp. Hu Tianning was also afraid of death. He nodded with a smile, turned over and dismounted to wait. Lin Muyu and the others sped up their pace and came very close. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled, It's been a long time, Governor. We meet again after we parted ways in Five Valley City? Hu Tianning cupped his hands and smiled, Yes, but I did not expect that there would be some small misunderstanding between us. The information we received before was not true. Please do not be angry, General Lin. I, Hu Tianning, did not act appropriately in this matter. It was our Tsangnan province that neglected General. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, What are you talking about? I should thank you for personally leading tens of thousands of troops from Five Valley City to the foot of Fire Axe Mountain to protect our army. Ha! The muscles on Hu Tianning's face twitched. He seemed to hear the sarcasm in Lin Muyu's words, but he did not show any strange expression. He just smiled and said, General, the House of Chivalry of Fire Axe Mountain is treacherous. Each and every one of them should be executed immediately. I wonder how the general will deal with those prisoners of war? Lin Muyu said, I will escort them back to Lanyan City to await punishment. They will most likely be executed, so there is no need for you to worry. This is what I should do. Yes. Lin Muyu walked forward and lowered her voice. Governor, this Fire Axe Mountain is actually a gold mine. The bastards of the House of Chivalry have already mined a lot of it. It is really hateful. I only received orders to destroy the House of Chivalry, but I did not receive any orders regarding the gold mine. So I have already sent a letter back to Lanyan City to let the Ministry of Works send people over to mine coins. Before that, this Fire Axe Mountain will be handed over to the governor to send people to guard. Hu Tianning nodded, Yes, I understand. Please rest assured, General. Well, then let the Flying Mount Battalion disperse. Let my people go down the mountain. Yes. Long Qianlin waved his flag. Immediately, the Flying Mount Battalion and the garrison troops of Five Valley City dispersed, creating a path for Lin Muyu's troops to escape. Galloping on their horses, more than 9,000 cavalrymen quickly withdrew from the Fire Axe Mountain, followed by nearly 2,000 surrendered soldiers from the House of Chivalry. At the same time, they also took away more than 1,400 precious white diamonds. Of course, Hu Tianning would not be aware of the existence of these white diamonds for the time being. After getting out of the encirclement, Lin Muyu finally heaved a sigh of relief. It was not easy to bring these 10,000 people out alive. Perhaps only he knew how dangerous it was. Sir. Wei Qiu's face was full of doubt and said, "We once again left the Fire Axe Mountain's gold mine to Hu Tianning? From what I see, this guy will definitely continue to mine coins. Don't tell me, we don't know anything otherwise." Lin Muyu asked and smiled, "It's not easy to come out alive. Don't provoke Hu Tianning anymore. Wei Qiu, you know the feudal lords of the empire better than I do. Are all the governors of the provinces like Hu Tianning?" Wei Qiu was stunned and said, "At least more than half. The governors of the provinces have a certain amount of power to recruit soldiers, so the governors of the major provinces will basically gather troops for themselves. This is also a major reason why the imperial power of the emperor has been weakened. Moreover, regarding the matter of exterminating the House of Chivalry, after the imperial edict was issued, all the provinces agreed on the surface but disobeyed in secret. This is all expected." "I see." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and her mood became solemn. This Qin Empire seemed to be a centralized imperial system, but in fact, it was almost a situation where warlords were divided. Living in such a chaotic world, she really did not know whether it was a blessing or a curse. Holding the dragon spirit sword, Lin Muyu lowered her eyes and looked at the ground that was constantly retreating under the hooves of the horses. For a moment, her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Chapter 218. After leaving Fire Axe Mountain, they continued to station their troops outside Silver Fir City. This time, however, Lin Muyu ordered Fengxi to lead 500 mercenaries from the Longdan army camp into Silver Fir City. They would be able to coordinate with those outside the city at any time, and with their backs to Silver Fir City, they could enter the city at any time. Although Silver Fir City's walls weren't particularly thick, they at least had enough food and water. At dusk, the afterglow of the setting sun shone upon the camp. The Spirit Medicine Division was already cooking meat soup and frying the army flatbread a little so that the soldiers could enjoy it more. Inside the central tent, Luo Yu, Qiying, Wei Qiu and the others were standing around a sand table. Although this sand table made of silt was simple and crude, it at least had a rough representation of the entire Cangnan province. Wei Qiu was a meticulous man. He inserted a small blue flag into the sand table and said, "Within the Cangnan province, the main altar of the House of Chivalry had more than 5,000 soldiers. We've already eliminated them, but there are still a total of 47 branches left. Going by the distance, the branch in Cloud Province is the closest with around 550 people. The second is the branch on the east of Silver Fir City with around 400 people. There's nothing to fear." Xiahou Sang said, "My lord, if we were to eliminate them one by one, it would take too much time. This general suggests that we split our forces. We'll split into 10 groups of 1,000 men and eliminate them together. What does my lord think?" Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Then let's pick 10 capable Kiliarchs to lead the troops. Remember, we'll try to get them to surrender first. If they don't succeed, then we'll attack. Try to minimize our losses from the House of Gallantry." "Yes, this general understands." Lin Muyu then looked at Wei Qiu and said, "How is the establishment of the Divine Bao Battalion going?" Wei Qiu smiled slightly, reporting to Master, "This general has already selected 100 mercenaries with extraordinary archery skills from the Brave Dragon camp. In the future, these people will be able to train in the consummate skill of shooting a poplar from 100 steps away." "And that's good." Lin Muyu let out a sigh of relief and said, "All right, everyone is tired after a busy day. Let's go back and rest early. We'll set out to eliminate the bandits tomorrow morning. In addition, place our scouts further away and pay close attention to the movements of the 5 Valley Cities troops." "Yes." After everyone dispersed, Lin Muyu sat on the edge of the bed and circulated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll to recover her Do Qi and physical strength. Soon after, she got off the bed and took out a crystal from her Cosmos bag. It was really a white diamond. This crystal pillar was about 1 meter long and 10 centimeters thick. It was exquisitely carved and sparkled under the light. Glancing at the door, he ordered, "No one can come in without my permission." "Yes, my lord." The guard replied solemnly. Lin Muyu raised her hand and summoned her cauldron. It was time to verify whether the legend was true or not. Was it true that a weapon forged from white diamond could break through battle armor? If it was true, then this trip to Fire Axe Mountain was a huge profit. If it wasn't, then it would only be an empty joy. Swoosh swoosh, strands of heavenly fire lingered around the crystal and began to refine this hard iron stone. Her spiritual sense slowly seeped into the crystal and dissected the spirit stone layer. Immediately, the fire drilled into the spirit stone layer and quickly melted the iron. Not long after, small white diamond particles like the tip of a needle floated in the molten iron. These were real white diamonds. Lin Muyu frowned and continued to use the heavenly fire to refine the crystal. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't melt these particles. These particles were abnormally hard and solidified. The only thing Lin Muyu could do was to reshape the solidified form of these particles. Suddenly her heart sank. Perhaps these particles could be reshaped and condensed on the blade. In that case, the sharpness of the blade would be greatly enhanced. Immediately, she took out the dragon spirit sword and placed it into the cauldron. Immediately, the dragon serpent sword spirit let out a series of roars. Lin Muyu spread her fingers and controlled the white diamonds to attach to the sword, quickly turning it into a sharp edge. This way, the sharpness of the dragon spirit sword would not be affected, but it would also greatly increase the strength of the sword. Only a fist-sized white diamond had been extracted from the entire white diamond crystal pillar. Half of it had been smelted into the blade of the dragon spirit sword. The remaining half could be used in other areas. Buzz? Lin Muyu held the dragon spirit sword in his hand again. The blade seemed to be plated with a layer of silver light and was glowing brightly. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. He could feel the joy of the sword soul in his palm. The dragon spirit sword had been strengthened after the blade was reforged. He slowly returned the dragon spirit sword to its sheath. He looked around with a satisfied expression and picked up a bunch of arrows from the side. The arrowheads of these arrows were made of hard steel and were very sharp. But no matter how sharp they were, they couldn't pierce through the defenses of heavy shields and armors. Therefore, these arrows could only cause fatal damage to some light armored troops. Once they encountered heavy cavalry like the Flying Mount Battalion, they would probably be useless. But this situation was going to change today. Swoosh! She tossed the first arrow into the cauldron, and the wooden branch that was the arrow was immediately burned to ashes. The steel arrowhead also quickly turned red. Before the arrowhead could melt, Lin Muyu immediately activated his battle chi and controlled a small amount of white diamond particles to attach to the arrowhead. His spiritual perception seeped into the arrowhead and quickly sharpened the blade. Not long after that, a silver-plated arrowhead appeared in front of him. Can this thing really pierce through battle armor? Lin Muyu held the scorching arrowhead with a doubtful look on his face. With that in mind, he didn't think too much about it. He suddenly crossed his left arm in front of his chest and quickly condensed his battle chi armor. He then stabbed the arrowhead down with all his might. A sharp pain immediately came from his left arm. Sure enough, the white diamond arrowhead broke through the defense of his battle armor and left a wound on his arm. Heavens! Lin Muyu was completely shocked. After stepping into the second heavenly layer, she thought that ordinary weapons could no longer harm her. Now that she thought about it, this thought was laughably childish. Everything in the world had a natural counter to each other, and this white diamond was like the nemesis of battle armor. It was like fire was afraid of water. After being hit by the white diamond arrowhead, it automatically dissipated. She used her battle chi to stop the bleeding and put the arrowhead aside. Then she pulled out all the arrowheads from the cluster of arrows and smelted them into white diamonds one by one. However, there were nearly 100 arrows in this cluster, and half of the crystal pillar was only enough to smelt 50 arrows. She had no choice but to smelt the second white diamond crystal. As a result, after tempering all 100 arrows into white diamond arrowheads, she also tempered the pear blossom spear and demonic noise saber with white diamonds. This also meant that if she encountered a powerhouse above the second heavenly layer, the weapons tempered with white diamonds would achieve a miraculous effect. In fact, there was only one reason why Lin Muyu was so eager to smelt so many white diamond arrowheads, and that was to deal with a sanctuary powerhouse. After Zheng Yifan killed Rong Hanyuan in Zetian Palace, who wouldn't be afraid of the power of the sanctuary? Even Qin Lei, Feng Jixing, and the others couldn't fight back against Zheng Yifan, let alone other people. Moreover, no one knew how many powerhouses were hiding on this continent. Zheng Yifan, Chu Chu, and Lei Hong weren't the only ones in the sanctuary. This was already an indisputable fact. The main reason why Lin Muyu ordered Wei Chou to build a godly archer battalion for the Longdan army camp was to use this army to deal with the sanctuary. That's right, under the explosive shooting of a group of godly archers' white diamond arrowheads, any sanctuary powerhouse would probably fall into a desperate situation, right? After placing this bundle of white diamond arrowheads beside the bed, Lin Muyu finally calmed down and fell into a deep sleep. She hadn't had a good sleep for many days. Now that she was in the center of an army of 10,000, there was no need to talk about her safety so she could have a good sleep. The night passed quickly and in the blink of an eye, it was already early morning. The sound of horse hooves outside woke Lin Muyu up. After she got up and washed up, Wei Chou had already come over with the demon-devouring bow. He smiled and said, "Milord, did you sleep well?" "Very well." Lin Muyu smiled slightly and said, "Wei Chou, carry the bundle of arrowheads in my room, we'll go to the shooting range now and try it out." Wei Chou didn't question much and went in to carry the arrows out. Looking at the luster of the arrows, his heart sank and he said, "Milord, these arrows have an inexplicable feeling of sharpness. Let's go." When they arrived at the shooting range, they saw a group of soldiers from the Divine Archer unit practicing mounted archery. The target was covered with arrows, and the hooves of horses galloped back and forth. However, there were a few Tianchong army heavy cavalry chatting and laughing to the side. Among them, Qiying raised her spear and said with a smile, "No matter how good one's archery is, it is impossible to pierce through the armor of heavy cavalry." "It's all in vain." Wei Chou was somewhat displeased. "That may not be true. As long as it is accurate, it is possible to kill with one arrow." Qiying laughed heartily. "It's just that not every archer can train their archery to Milord Wei Chou's level. General Lin, don't you think so?" "That may not be true." Lin Muyu smiled mysteriously and said, "Qiying, place your Tianchong army's shield under the target. Wei Chou, shoot an arrow and see if it can pierce through the shield." "Okay." Qiying spurred her horse forward, unconvinced. She placed a black heavy shield under the target and said with a smile, "The Tianchong army's black stone shield weighs at least 100 pounds and is 3 centimeters thick. Let's see how you can pierce through it." Wei Chou did not say anything. He raised his hand and grabbed a white diamond arrow, knocked it on the demon-devouring bow and slowly pulled it back. With a whoosh, the arrow left the bowstring. In the next moment, with a clang, it completely pierced through the shield. Qiying's mouth was wide open in shock. How is this possible?" It must be because of Milord Wei Chou's arm strength that you can do this. If it was someone else, it may not be the same." Wei Chou knew the secret behind this and smiled slightly. "Then let's change to someone else. Sun Hu, you shoot an arrow." As he spoke, he handed over a white diamond arrow. The mercenary from the Longdan army camp raised his hand and shot an arrow. Just like before, the arrow pierced through the heavy shield with a clang. Qiying was completely dumbfounded. There must be something fishy going on. The shields of our Tianchong army are not shoddily made low-quality equipment. How is this possible? Wei Chou patted his shoulder and smiled. "All right, let's get ready for the morning's mission." Chapter 219. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Batches of soldiers from the Tianchong army and Longdan army camp returned with good news. The 47 branches of the House of Chivalry in Sangnan province had all been destroyed. More than half of them had surrendered. Longdan army camp had been able to pick out nearly 3,000 men of good character and strength to join the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu's task in these 10 days was very simple. She continued to refine the white diamond crystals and forged 20,000 white diamond arrows for the Longdan army camp. This should be enough for a while. Moreover, Luo Yu was a good general. Every time she shot out a white diamond arrow, she would retrieve it. Even if the arrow was broken, she would pull out the arrowhead and install a new arrow. At noon, Wei Chou returned with a batch of captives and supplies from the House of Chivalry. His face was beaming with joy as he went straight to the main tent. "Milord, we have seized nearly 50,000 Jinin coins. These people in the House of Chivalry's branches are really rich." Lin Muyu was installing arrowheads on arrows. She twisted them and smiled. "The House of Chivalry is like the wandering mercenaries. They make a living by robbing the people. Naturally, they are very rich." Wei Chou cupped his fists and smiled, saying, "Sir, from now on, the House of Chivalry's military forces in the Sangnan province have been almost completely wiped out by us. There will no longer be anyone oppressing the people and causing the fires of war here." "Do you think that will be the case?" Lin Muyu smiled, stood up and said, "The House of Chivalry is admittedly very strong, but the 9 cities of Sangnan province each have a military force of no less than 2,000 people. The local government should be responsible for eliminating the bandits, but we have to do it. Even if we leave, new bandits will breed here, so it's completely useless." Then isn't it meaningless for us to eliminate the bandits this time?" "Not necessarily." Lin Muyu did not continue and said, "In the afternoon, Jianghu will be leading the 3,000 Imperial Guards. They will be here to supervise and protect the Fire Axe Mountain's gold mining. Send someone to ensure the safety of the Imperial Guards before we leave. Yes. Wei Chou saluted and suddenly smiled. I heard that. Princess Shi has come to Cathaya City with Lord Jiang Wei. Oh? Sir, aren't you going to welcome them? Then let's go. Lin Muyu's heart warmed. It seemed that she hadn't seen Tang Xiaoxi for a long time. It was afternoon and the sun was shining brightly. The sound of hooves could be heard from the distant road as the 3,000-strong Imperial Guards led by Jiang Wei arrived at Silver Fir City. At the very front of the formation was Tang Xiaoxi. She was dressed in a fiery red robe, and her cloak was embroidered with gold. It was a beautiful sight to behold. When she saw Lin Muyu and the others from afar, she immediately spurred her horse forward. Whoosh! Tang Xiaoxi suddenly leapt from her warhorse, the firefox on her shoulder chirping loudly. Beneath her feet was a firefox seal shrouded in fighting aura. Like a beautiful fairy from the heavens, she leapt into Lin Muyu's arms in an instant. Lin Muyu laughed heartily as he subconsciously opened his arms and pulled Tang Xiaoxi into his embrace. He probably didn't even know how much he had missed this gentle and mischievous princess in the past half a month. In the end, the impact of Tang Xiaoxi's embrace was too great, and he tumbled off his warhorse with Lin Muyu. Wrapped in a white cloak, Lin Muyu slid down the grass for nearly 10 meters before coming to a stop. Xiao Shi, you've stepped into the heavenly realm? Lin Muyu asked with a smile as he held her in his arms. Tang Xiaoxi was as beautiful as a peach blossom, and she nodded with a flushed face. With Chu and Grand Deacon Lei Hong's help, I've already mastered the Firefox seal, and my cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds. That's great. Lin Muyu spun around and deftly stood up with the beautiful princess in his arms. He gently let go of Tang Xiaoxi's slender waist and said in a tone that was both sentimental and polite, Why did you come to Cathaya City with Lord Jiang Wei? Because I missed you. Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue, not bothering to hide her longing for Lin Muyu at all. At the side, Wei Chou hugged his sword and smiled. Commander, when are you going to marry Princess Shi? Jiang Wei also smiled and cupped his fists. Congratulations, Lord Lin Muyu, you're about to become the son-in-law of Seven Seas Province. Lin Muyu blushed and her heart thumped loudly. She tried her best to calm herself down and said with a smile, You guys, don't hit me when I'm down, alright? Xiao Shi is still young? Still young? Jiang Wei grinned. My mother gave birth to me when she was 16, and Princess Shi is almost 20 now. Is she still young? He tilted his head and looked at the peaks beneath Tang Xiaoxi's chest. The girl's figure was unusually tall and straight, and that pair of shameful and proud breasts bulged out of the front of the princess's robe. Jiang Wei hurriedly wiped away his saliva and said, You're not young either. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned even redder. Suddenly she opened her right hand and a flame mark rose slowly. It was the Tianchong seal, the fourth heaven of the Firefox seal. She smiled with a murderous aura. Jiang Wei, do you want to die? Jiang Wei's cultivation advanced slowly and he had yet to step into the heaven realm. How could he be a match for Tang Xiaoxi? He couldn't help but tremble and said, Princess Shi, please spare my life. I didn't mean any disrespect when I spoke nonsense just now. Lin Muyu took the opportunity to hold Tang Xiaoxi's palm and dissolved the power of the Firefox seal. She smiled. Xiao Shi, don't stoop to his level. Let's go back to the camp with me. We'll break camp and return to Lanyan City in 1 or 2 days. Okay. She smiled sweetly. Jiang Wei cupped his fists. I'll bring my men to take over the Fire Axe Mountain's gold mine. Lady Lin Muyu, I'll leave Princess Shi's safety in your hands. Don't neglect her when I, old Zhang, send the beauty over. Lin Muyu grinned. I'll hand you over to the military law office if you speak nonsense again. Old Zhang will take his leave. Goodbye, everyone. Jiang Wei tugged on the reins and led the Imperial Army cavalry away. Behind them were a group of miners and commoners pushing the carriages. It was no wonder that they took 10 days to arrive. It must have been hard on Tang Xiaoxi. She had to follow this group of uncouth men for 10 days. Holding Tang Xiaoxi's hand as they returned to the Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu asked with a smile, How strange. Xiao Shi, how could you have been patient enough to follow Jiang Wei's group for 10 days? Given your personality, you should have reached Cathaya City in 3 days. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said pitifully, You're still asking? Originally, Chu and Xiao Yin didn't allow me to come. It was only after much begging that they allowed me to follow Jiang Wei's 3,000 cavalry. I didn't eat or sleep well along the way. Now that we've finally arrived and this is your territory, Mu, you have to treat me well. Of course. Lin Muyu beckoned for Luo Yu to come over and took out a bag of Jinin coins. Smiling, she said, Luo Yu, send someone into the city and buy some good wine and food. I want to treat Princess Shi well tonight. Yes, my lord. Luo Yu took the money pouch and raised his head to look at Tang Xiaoxi. Instantly, a trace of confusion flashed past his eyes. He was just a fellow with a knight-errant background and had never seen such a beautiful woman before. Moreover, he had never seen such a noble young miss like Tang Xiaoxi. Instantly he was in a trance. Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. Luo Yu, what are you looking at? Who would look at the commander like that? Her pretty little face blushed again. For a moment she didn't know how to describe herself to Lin Muyu and just stood there awkwardly. She wanted to put on the airs of a princess, but she was so embarrassed that she didn't know where to start. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh at her beauty. Luo Yu, hurry up and go. If you want to look, come back later. Xiaoxi is coming back to Lanyan City with us. Luo Yu calmed himself down and cupped his fists. Yes, my lord. But don't worry, my lord, I won't look at my lord's woman again. Luo Yu is a reasonable person. Lin Muyu went forward and patted his shoulder. He was indeed a reasonable person. Good brother. After sending Luo Yu away, they returned to the main tent. There was only Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu left in the tent. The two of them sat opposite each other and felt a little awkward. They didn't know what to say. Finally, Lin Muyu broke the awkward silence and said, Xiaoxi, how's the process of cultivating the firefox seal? Tang Xiaoxi blinked her big eyes and said, Grandpa started teaching me the firefox seal when I wasn't even 6 years old. It's just that I couldn't cultivate it due to my physique. Now that I've opened the hidden latch, the firefox seal naturally came to fruition. On the same day, I cultivated the third heaven of the firefox seal. In another 5 days, I cultivated the fourth heaven of the firefox seal. Grandpa Chu Chu said that with my perception, I might be able to cultivate the seventh heaven of the firefox seal in less than 2 months. He said that my talent far exceeds Brother Tang Bin's. Is that so? Lin Muyu was also secretly delighted. That's great. Xiaoxi has grown into a strong practitioner who possesses the firefox seal. This is a great thing for us. Alright, how's Xiao Yin's cultivation? It's alright. Xiao Yin's cultivation has always been fast. In the past 6 months she has advanced by leaps and bounds. She originally planned to come with me to Cangnan province, but unfortunately, Her Majesty didn't allow it. She had no choice but to continue cultivating in Zetian Palace. Ha, is that so? Lin Muyu unwittingly smiled and said, I haven't seen you and Xiao Yin for many days. I really miss you guys. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said with a look of disbelief, You're now a general who commands thousands of troops. I thought you were already immersed in military affairs and didn't have time to miss us. How could that be? Lin Muyu smiled and said, I'm immersed in military affairs only because the Empire needs me. Alright, we'll break camp and return to Lanyan City tomorrow. Eat more tonight and sleep early. Amen. At night, Luo Yu and a few mercenaries from the Longdan army camp brought food and wine from Cathaya City along with a few cooks. Only Princess Shi could receive such treatment. They made a table full of food and wine and placed it in the tent. However, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi definitely couldn't finish it, so they invited Luo Yu, Wei Chou, Qiying and the other generals to eat together. This caused Qiying, Wei Chou and the others to almost cry. They had fought in the army for almost half their lives, but they had never eaten with someone as noble as a princess. So when their tears fell into the soup, they seemed to enjoy the meal even more. Lin Muyu secretly cursed these guys for being useless as she picked food for Tang Xiaoxi, making Tang Xiaoxi so happy that she was bursting with joy. They had just finished eating when a soldier reported that Xinyang had finally arrived at Cathaya City with 15,000 infantrymen. However, the battle was already over, and it didn't seem appropriate to leave just like that. Therefore, Lin Muyu arranged a retreat route for him. Along the way, they would sweep away a few of the newly risen branches of the Hall of Chivalry in Lanyan City. It could be considered as doing the people a favor. Chapter 220. After traveling for 3 days, he returned to Lanyan City and handed the tiger tally to Qiying to bring back to Qihai Pass to hand it in. The Longdan army camp was brought back to Dragon Rocky Mountain by Luo Yu and Fengxi. They also trained the 4,000 new recruits. In this way, the total number of people in the Longdan army camp had reached 9,648, which was close to 10,000 people. Lin Muyu could be considered to have an army of 10,000 people outside. It could be said to be a mighty force. However, the price was that he had to pay Luo Yu another 500,000 Jianghu coins for the cost of weapons, rations, and war horses. It was very expensive to raise this mercenary army that did not rob the common people. Fortunately, Lin Muyu could afford it for now. At night, Zetian Palace held a celebration banquet. The Emperor Qin Jin and Princess Qin Yin personally celebrated for Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others. This trip had directly wiped out the forces of the House of Chivalry in Sangnan Province. Even if they were to rise from the ashes, they would no longer have the momentum they had in the past. After 3 rounds of drinking, everyone was a little tipsy. At this time, Qin Jin stood up and said with a smile, You haven't returned to Zetian Palace for a long time. Imperial Father has something to say to you. Come, you and Xiaoyin can come to the rear hall together. Yes, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu bowed respectfully. Qin Yin smiled and walked over. She held his cloak and followed this sworn brother into the rear hall with a smile. The rear hall was empty, but the candles were brightly lit. The maids and officials had already been dismissed by Qin Jin. Under the candlelight, Qin Jin, who was wearing a dragon robe with golden dragons circling around it, stood with his hands behind his back and his back facing Lin Muyu. He said, How is Sangnan Province? Lin Muyu was stunned. She did not know why he suddenly asked such a question. She cupped her fists and said, Prosperous, strong and prosperous. That's all? Qin Jin turned around, raised his brows and asked again, I heard that you've already fought with Long Qianlin, an outstanding general of the younger generation in Five Valleys City. What do you think of Long Qianlin? Lin Muyu was calm as she replied, General Long Qianlin is a talented general with great command skills. The Flying Mount Battalion under his command is the cream of the crop. I have to admit that I'm no match for Long Qianlin if we were to clash on the battlefield. Really? Qin Jin smiled faintly and said, But I heard that Long Qianlin led the Flying Mount Battalion to attack the mountain, but he didn't get the slightest benefit from your hands. To be more precise, Long Qianlin lost to your strategy. No. Lin Muyu said faintly, he didn't lose in terms of strategy, but in terms of equipment and vanguard. I brought along the most elite heavy cavalry of the Tianchong army and 60 imperial guards to assist me in battle. The archery skills of Wei Chou and the others can be said to be the best in the world. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the Flying Cavalry Battalion would have already taken down the Fire Axe Mountain. Let's not talk about this. Qin Jin suddenly changed the topic and asked, Do you know that Hu Tianning privately minted Jianghu coins? Lin Muyu was slightly startled and cold sweat involuntarily soaked his clothes. He cupped his fists and said with knitted brows, I didn't know. It's good that you didn't know. Qin Jin smiled faintly and reached out to pat his shoulder. He said, If you know and don't report, your crime is the same as deceiving the ruler. Do you understand? This general understands. Lin Muyu almost didn't dare to raise his head to look at Qin Jin's burning gaze. Who would dare say that Qin Jin was a muddle-headed and incompetent ruler? Lin Muyu definitely wouldn't agree. The Qin Jin before him was filled with wisdom, so much so that Lin Muyu felt afraid. Your Majesty. He paused for a moment, then asked, Since your Majesty knows that Hu Tianning privately minted coins, why didn't you send troops to denounce him? Denounce him? Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. I only sent people to find out this information. How could I so easily attack a feudal lord without real evidence? Moreover, Long Qianlin is Hu Tianning's son-in-law and holds the military power of Sangnan Province's 120,000 soldiers. If he really rebelled, I'm afraid Lanyan City would suffer a great calamity. You still have a lot to learn. Lin Muyu raised his head and glanced at him. She saw some affection in Qin Jin's eyes and asked, Imperial Father, do you already feel that you can't control Sangnan Province? Yes. Qin Jin nodded without denying it. He sighed and said, Hu Tianning was once a general under the divine Marquis Zheng Yifan. He is brave and skilled in battle and has a lot of prestige in the army. His son-in-law Long Qianlin now holds a large number of troops and his nephew Xianghu is the commander of the military police battalion. He's a high-ranking general who controls the entire army. It's true that I can't go to war with Sangnan Province right now. If I touch Hu Tianning, Sangnan Province will definitely rebel. Lin Muyu was silent for a few seconds. Then she said, But if we delay for too long, I'm afraid unforeseen events will occur. Qin Jin smiled slightly. Yes, so I have a task to entrust to you. In the entire imperial capital, only you are the most suitable person to complete this task, so... Oh, what task? Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Yin, who was standing to the side, blushed but didn't say anything. Qin Jin stroked his beard and smiled. We want you to accompany Xiao Yin on a trip to her maternal grandfather's house? Muyu City? Yes. Qin Jin raised his head and said, You have to go to Yunzhong province and do something as important as the heavens for us. Lin Muyu's heart sank. She seemed to have guessed something and said, It has something to do with Cangnan province, right? Qin Jin smiled. You is indeed extremely intelligent. In fact, you should have guessed that most of the documents we send to Yunzhong province will be intercepted. Zheng Yifun's influence is too great. If I send an imperial edict to invite Xiao Yin's maternal grandfather, Duke Muyun, to dispatch troops to the Five Valley City, I'm afraid that this imperial edict will be discovered halfway through the journey. Moreover, ordinary people won't be able to meet Duke Muyun, so you'll have to disguise yourself and escort Xiao Yin to Yunzhong province. It's just as Chu said, Xiao Yin needs real experience. Your Majesty, wouldn't this be inappropriate? Lin Muyu was stunned. If it's only me, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to ensure Xiao Yin's safety. Don't you have confidence in yourself? Qin Jin looked at him indifferently and said, Among the wind, rain, thunder and lightning four, you and Feng Jixing are the strongest. We can also see that your cultivation may be above Feng Jixing's, so no one is more suitable to accompany Xiao Yin to Yunzhong province than you. Moreover, in the imperial capital, Chu has been playing chess with Divine Marquis Zheng Yifun every day and has Zheng Yifun firmly under his control in the imperial capital. With your and Xiao Yin's cultivation, who else do you have to worry about? Lin Muyu was startled. It seemed that as the emperor said, she was already so strong. With the addition of Qin Yin who had the god-binding chains and the strength of the heaven realm, who else could there be? Perhaps Xiangyu would be one, but Xiangyu would never make a move against Qin Yin. After all, if he wanted to be promoted and get rich, he had to protect Qin Yin, the heir to the throne. If the world really fell into chaos, Xiangyu might not even be able to make it as a commander. Moreover, Lin Muyu had now comprehended the fourth element of the seven luminaries' profound energy and her strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Even if Xiangyu really came, he and Qin Yin might not lose even if they joined forces. The most important thing was disguise. As long as they disguised themselves well, no one would be able to discover them. Clap clap. Qin Jin clapped his hands and said with a smile, Bring out the luggage. Immediately, two attendants walked over with a tray in their hands. On the tray were two sets of tattered clothes. One set of men's clothes and the other set of women's clothes. They looked as if they had been stripped from the bodies of beggars on the streets. Beside the women's clothes was a worn-out seven-stringed zither, and beside the men's clothes was a rusty iron sword. This is... Lin Muyu was completely confused. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, Chu has already prepared identities for you. A pair of brother and sister who are traveling the martial world. The younger sister plays the zither for a living while the older brother performs sword dances and acrobatics for a living. What do you think? He actually looked a little pleased with himself. What else could Lin Muyu say? She cupped her fists and said, Your Majesty is mighty? Qin Yin, on the other hand, looked excited. She said with a smile, Big brother you, does this mean that you've already agreed to go sightseeing with me? Ah no, to train in the martial world? Lin Muyu looked at her helplessly and said, but Xiao Yin, you must be prepared to endure hardships. The outside world is not like the Zetian Palace Hall. There are many hardships that you can't imagine. I know, Qin Jin said with a smile. Qin Jin smiled and said, I've already asked people to prepare 2 old horses for you. You two can take your time to get to Cloud Province. Don't be in a hurry and remember to make a living as a performer along the way. Also, you'll have to find someone to help you disguise yourselves. Otherwise, with your looks, it'll be difficult for you two not to be recognized. Yes. Sure enough, Qin Jin ordered 2 maidservants to style Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. An hour later, Lin Muyu's face had 2 scars that had coagulated for a long time, while Qin Yin's beautiful face was covered with a few freckles and other stains. This caused the number 1 beauty in the empire to instantly fall out of the top 10,000. However, the outstanding looks between her brows could still be vaguely seen. Following the emperor's orders, they were not allowed to greet anyone. Thus, they left Lanyan City in the middle of the night and mingled with a group of acrobats who were entering the palace to perform. They left Zetian Palace Hall and rode 2 thin and weak old horses out of Lanyan City. The cold wind blew in the night. Lin Muyu wore a thin cloak and carried the dragon spirit sword and a rusty iron sword wrapped in black cloth on her back. After leaving the city, she turned to look at Qin Yin, only to find that the princess was holding the 7-stringed zither on her back and holding the reins. Her eyes were like stars as she looked at everything outside excitedly and curiously. Her heart was jumping with joy like a bird that had just been released from its cage. "Are you happy?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yin smiled faintly. "Of course I'm happy to come out to train with Big Brother Yu. Where's Big Brother Yu? Are you happy coming out with Xiaoyin?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, "I'm afraid that if I say I'm not happy you'll push me out." Qin Yin burst into laughter. "Don't always make me laugh. Xiao Shi said that girls who laugh all the time will get wrinkles very early." All right. I won't tease you anymore. Hurry up and find an inn on the official road outside the city as soon as possible." "Yes." Chapter 221. The Cloud Ancient Road was one of the oldest official roads in the empire. It led from Lanyan City to Muyu City. There were hundreds of guest houses along the way. It was said that the Cloud Ancient Road was even older than the Qin Empire. It had existed for tens of thousands of years. The night was dark. A man and a woman rode their horses slowly on the ancient road. Lin Muyu touched the neck of the horse. She couldn't help but feel sorry for it. This old horse was probably about the same age as her. It was dying, but it still had to do such a hard job. He looked up at the sky and couldn't help but worry. The clouds are dense. It's either going to snow or rain. Qin Yin tied her cloak with a ladle-like button in front of her chest. She smiled and said, "Brother Yu, since we came out together, shouldn't we give each other a new name?" "Sure. What should I call you?" "How about this, we'll use your surname. I'm Lin Yin and you're Lin Yu. What do you think?" "Lin Yu?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "It sounds like we're going to get wet in the rain. It's a bit ominous." As soon as he finished speaking, a drop of rain fell on his nose. He wiped it. It was a little cold. He hurriedly grabbed the reins and said, "It's going to rain. Xiaoyin, let's go quickly. There should be a small town ahead." Okay. It didn't take long for the winter rain to start. Fortunately, there was a dim light on the road ahead. There was a house. Dismounting from the horse, Lin Muyu picked up a worn-out oil paper umbrella and opened it with a whoosh, only to find that there were 7 or 8 holes in it. She couldn't help but smile. Qin Jin really didn't care about his daughter and godson. The umbrella he prepared for them was almost dispensable. However, he still covered Qin Yin with the umbrella. Qin Yin looked up at him and smiled sweetly. "No need. I'll use the cloak to block the wind and rain. But your cloak is only made of coarse cloth. It can't block the rain at all." "Oh, that's true." Qin Yin stuck out her tongue, almost forgetting that she was no longer wearing the exquisite princess cloak. The two of them led the horse and walked towards the light. After a few minutes, they entered the small town. They could see restaurants and inns in the distance. There were many merchants, cultivators, mercenaries, and travelers on the ancient cloud path. The business in the small town along the way was very good, especially when it was raining and they were in the middle of nowhere. There were more and more people in the town. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin didn't stand out when they walked in the crowd. After all, the shabby cloaks they wore made them look no different from people who wandered the world. First, they found a place to eat and rest. Lin Muyu's eyes kept looking at the shops on both sides. Suddenly, her eyes stopped on a huge horizontal board with a line of words written on it. She couldn't help but read it aloud. "The beef cow hates the pot and the iron mountain." Wow, there's actually such a domineering poem in this rural area. "What poem?" Qin Yin pouted and held his hand. "Why don't you read it upside down?" Lin Muyu was speechless. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. She pouted and said, "Just write it properly. Why do they have to write it upside down? I really can't see through them." Qin Yin held back her laughter. "Brother, where are we going to sleep tonight? How about this iron pot restaurant? Let's eat first and then find a place to sleep." "No." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were like water. She glanced at their clothes and laughed softly. "Do you think our attire and occupation are suitable to eat expensive beef loaf?" "That's true." Lin Muyu pointed to the front and said, "There's a wine shop there. It also provides accommodation. Let's stay there?" "Yes." Qin Yin smiled and nodded. The tavern was bustling with people and business was good. There was an umbrella dragon's head hanging on the eaves of the tavern. It looked a little scary and the name of the tavern was written below it, Umbrella Dragon Tavern. From afar, a waiter greeted them with a smile on his face. "Would you like to have a meal or stay here?" "Yes, we are." Lin Muyu asked, "How much does it cost to stay here for a night?" The waiter led the horse over and smiled. "The two of you are husband and wife, right? A first-class husband and wife room is only 10 silver coins a night." Lin Muyu was about to agree immediately. He didn't want Qin Yin to suffer too much with him. However, he didn't expect Qin Yin to take off her cloak and reveal a freckled face. She smiled and said, "Waiter, how much is a second-class room for a night?" 3 silver coins. "Then give us a second-class room." "Alright, please come in. I will help you get a room and feed the horse." "Thank you." After entering the wine shop, they found that it was indeed a foul atmosphere. There were dozens of tables in the huge wine shop's lobby, and almost all of them were occupied. There were all kinds of people. There were wild mercenaries wielding axes, gentle scholars, and even merchants silently calculating their gains and losses. All of them were busy with their own things. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's hand and sat down in a corner of the wine shop. He called out to the waiter and asked, "Xiaoyin, what would you like to eat?" Qin Yin smiled and said in a natural and unrestrained manner, "Let's eat something simple. After all, we don't have much silver coins left. Waiter, can we have 2 portions of coarse bread and a bowl of vegetable soup?" "Alright, please wait for a moment." The waiter nodded and bowed before leaving. Not long after, their dinner was served. Even Lin Muyu, who was used to the harsh life in the army, was stunned. The coarse bread was really coarse and as hard as iron. She almost had to use the dragon spirit sword to slice it. As for the vegetable soup, it was already slightly cold. No wonder these 2 servings of food only cost 10 copper coins. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and couldn't help but smile. She dipped the coarse bread into the vegetable soup and said, "Brother, it can be bitten like this." "Oh, is that so?" Lin Muyu looked at her with a smile. Qin Yin opened her cherry lips and took a bite of the bread. Suddenly she was petrified. How could she have known that the bread was so hard? She blushed and put down the bread. "Looks like I'll have to soak it a little longer." Lin Muyu laughed heartily. It wasn't easy to eat something warm in this cold weather. Moreover, they couldn't show off their skills here. Otherwise, it would be easy for others to discover the truth. After finishing the meal with great difficulty, the waiter of the tavern clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Dear friends of Jianghu and Yunzhong Ancient Road, next up is the wonderful program that this tavern has prepared for everyone. Our shopkeeper has specially invited a few exquisite beauties from the western region. They are good at playing the huqin. I hope that everyone will do me the honor. Please." Amidst the hustle and bustle, 5 women dressed in thin clothes walked to the simple wooden stage in the center of the hall with huqin in their arms. After bowing gracefully, they began to play and sing some songs that Lin Muyu couldn't understand. Although she couldn't understand them, the melody seemed pretty good. Qin Yin sat there with a smile on her face, enjoying the moment of peace. After the song, the waiter walked up to the stage again and put his arm around the shoulders of 2 of the beauties from the western region. He smiled and said, "Friends, as you can see, the beauties of our Umbrella Dragon Tavern are both talented and skilled. It's winter now and the weather is cold. I'm sure all of you don't want to sleep alone. We've all tasted the feeling of being alone. So, you can bring these 5 beauties back to your room to accompany you to sleep. However, the highest bidder wins. Now, is there anyone willing to bring the beauties on my left?" A drunk mercenary in the crowd raised his axe high and laughed. "5, I want all of them. 5 Jining coins deal. Whoever dares to compete with me, I'll chop him in half with my axe." The waiter was stunned. He smiled and said, "Sir, the number of beauties in the tavern is limited. You can't take them all. Besides, isn't 1 Jining coin too cheap?" "None of your business. I want them." The mercenary carried his axe and staggered forward. The waiter's eyes flashed and he suddenly stepped forward. His palm was filled with jinqi, and he seized the mercenary's vital acupoint on the mercenary's wrist. He pushed the mercenary out of the door and said with a smile, "Sir, you've drunk too much. You'd better rest early." The waiter pushed the mercenary away lightly and the mercenary fell into the mud outside with a grunt. Lin Muyu frowned. She didn't expect there to be such an expert in the tavern. That waiter was at least at the 2nd level of the Earth realm. Everyone continued to eat and drink. "Haha, let's continue to fight for these Western region beauties." The waiter nodded and bowed to the crowd with a cheeky smile. Soon, the 5 Western region women were taken away to serve the guests, and the tavern fell into an awkward atmosphere. They probably didn't prepare any other programs. At this moment, Qin Yin stood up and said to the waiter, "My brother and I are entertainers who travel the martial world. May I ask if we can perform a song for everyone in your tavern?" The waiter's eyes lit up. Although Qin Yin had put on makeup, the waiter could still see the girl's elegant and refined appearance. He nodded and smiled. "Sure, please, miss." "Okay, thank you." Qin Yin tugged at Lin Muyu, a gentle smile in her eyes. She laughed softly and said, I've said that we'll be performing along the way, you can't be lazy. Xiaoyin, play the zither, I'll practice the sword. Okay. Lin Muyu braced himself and walked onto the stage with Qinin. He raised his hand and pulled out the rusty iron sword on his back. He cupped his fists and smiled at the crowd. He said loudly, My sister and I are entertainers in the martial world. We pass by this place, so we will perform a zither dance to thank you. If you think it's good, you can give us some money. If you think it's not good, you can just laugh it off. Everyone was solemn, and their eyes all fell on Qinin beside him. They were all looking at the beautiful girls. Who had time to look at the handsome guy? Qinin sat down gracefully and gracefully. Her Royal Highness's temperament and etiquette were not something that ordinary women could possess. She tightened the strings of the 7-string guqin and placed it on her thighs. With a light wave of her hand, the first melody was already playing in the tavern. It was melodious and sweet, as if a young girl was expressing her thoughts. Lin Muyu was a little speechless. He was good at killing people with a sword, but to accompany a sword dance, this was a little difficult for him. In desperation, he followed the rhythm of the melody and waved his long sword gently. There was nothing else but the routine of the wind-riding swordsmanship. Chapter 222. In the middle of the song, the river suddenly changed. Qin Yin's melody instantly changed from a gentle melody to the clanging of horses and spears. Lin Muyu also understood what she meant. With a flick of his wrist, the blade of his sword cut through the wind. He performed the wind formula of the wind-riding sword technique. The rusty iron sword in his hand seemed to have turned into a sharp killing weapon. Streaks of cold light flashed on the stage. Seeing this, the group of rangers and mercenaries in the tavern couldn't help but cheer. Although he was just selling his artiste, this young man's swordsmanship seemed to be quite accomplished. The reason why Lin Muyu showed this move was simple. He wanted to tell those who had fantasies about Qinin to think about his strength. If they couldn't even defeat him, then they shouldn't think about him anymore. At the end of the song, many swordsmen and mercenaries below the stage took out their money and tossed it onto the stage. Ding ding dang 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 dang. There were silver kin coins, copper kin coins, and even gold kin coins. Lin Muyu picked up the money from the white pouch. Of course he couldn't let Qinin do this. When he raised his head, he saw Qinin looking at him with a gentle gaze. What's wrong? He asked. Qinin smiled faintly. Nothing. I think today is the happiest day of my life. Is that so? Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows and smiled. It's okay. You'll still be as happy in the future. Really? Yes. That's great. Qin Yin's girlish demeanor deepened. She snuggled up to Lin Muyu. The group of hot-blooded mercenaries and rangers couldn't stand it anymore. Perhaps, if Qinin removed her makeup and revealed her true appearance, these people would be even more mesmerized. After all, the title of the #1 beauty in Lanyan City wasn't just for show. When Lin Muyu and Qinin returned to their seats, the door of the tavern suddenly creaked open. In the cold wind, a man in a black cloak walked in. He lifted the cloak and revealed a resolute face. With a faint smile he said, "Shopkeeper, do you need people to perform tricks here?" The waiter looked at him in disdain. "What do you know?" The man smiled. "I tame some small pets to entertain all of you." "There's no need to embarrass yourself by taming pets like monkeys and dogs." "No, what I tamed was something else." "What? Bring it out." "Okay." The man whistled behind him and smiled. "Little umbrella, come out." Roar? It was a young dragon's roar. An umbrella dragon at least 3 meters long climbed up from outside. Its golden eyes looked at the people around it without a trace of fear. However, the people in the tavern were startled. Umbrella dragon. Oh my god, it's a 200-year-old umbrella dragon. Who is this kid? How can he tame a dragon? Could he be the legendary Dragon Knight? *T. Have you seen a dragon knight riding an umbrella dragon? I. At this moment, the dragon tamer walked in and said with a smile, "My name is Du Yiming. I'm a juggler in the pugilistic world. I tamed a young umbrella dragon by chance, so I brought it here to perform for all of you. If you have money, please support me. If you don't have money, please support me. I thank all of you." Du Yiming looked refined. He raised his left arm. Instantly, the umbrella dragon cried out and placed its front paw on Du Yiming's hand. It actually learned to walk with him. The umbrella-shaped wings on its huge head opened, and a pair of golden eyes looked at the people around it with curiosity. It was quite cute. Qinin couldn't help but laugh. "Big brother you, this umbrella dragon is so interesting." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. She didn't say anything. She was more concerned about how Du Yiming could tame a 200-year-old umbrella dragon. He looked like he was only at the first level of Earth Realm. The umbrella dragon wasn't just an ordinary spirit beast. It was a low-level dragon. On the stage, the young umbrella dragon rolled around and ran around, making the group of travelers laugh. Silver and copper coins naturally fell onto the stage. Du Yiming knelt on one knee. As he picked up the coins, his gaze fell on Qin Yin, who was sitting in the corner. His heart was in turmoil. This young lady was not simple. Her words, actions, and appearance were all top-notch. If it weren't for the freckles on her face, she would be a peerless beauty. After the juggling, Du Yiming asked for a bowl of meat soup and 2 pieces of soft bread. He walked over with the umbrella dragon and said with a smile, "Young hero, young lady, there are no extra seats here. Can I share a table?" Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Go ahead." "Thank you." In the end, the umbrella dragon knelt on Qin Yin's body. It blinked its big eyes, and the umbrella leaves around its head opened and closed slowly. It seemed to be acting cute. Qin Yin's maiden heart melted. She wasn't afraid. She reached out and gently stroked the umbrella dragon's head. She smiled and said, "Wow, what a good little dragon." Du Yiming chewed the bread and smiled. "Young lady, do you like my little umbrella?" "Yes." Qin Yin didn't deny it. Du Yiming smiled. "May I know where you and young lady are from and where are you going?" Lin Muyu said, "My name is Lin Yu and this is my younger sister, Lin Yin. We've been performing and wandering the world. This time we're going to Muyu City. I heard that it's better to be a performer there." "I see." Du Yiming smiled. "I'm Du Yiming and I'm going to Muyu City too. How about the 3 of us travel together? We can take care of each other this way. Is that okay?" Lin Muyu furrowed her brows, showing a hint of unwillingness. Du Yiming was a smart man. He looked at Qin Yin and said with a smile, "Young lady Lin Yin seems to like my little umbrella very much. They can spend more time together on the way. No need." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were shining with wisdom. "My brother and I are used to wandering the world alone. We won't disturb you." "I see." Du Yiming was a little disappointed. He said with a smile, "I thought that if young lady Lin Yin likes the little umbrella, I could share my knowledge of animal taming with you." "Animal taming?" Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. He knew the power of a spirit beast. Didn't the pale crane almost kill the king with the help of a 10,000-year dragon snake? If Qin Yin learned animal taming, it would definitely be a good thing. Thinking of this, he immediately cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Xiaoyin likes small animals. If young Master Du is really willing to teach her animal taming, let's travel together." Du Yiming laughed. "Okay, it's a deal. Let's set off together tomorrow morning?" "Okay." Late at night, the rain was getting heavier. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled outside. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's room was near the periphery. The lightning seemed to have turned into a tomahawk and was about to tear the window open. Qin Yin was restless lying on the bed. She tilted her head and looked at Lin Muyu who was lying on the ground. She pouted and said, "Brother, it's too cold on the ground. Why don't you come up? I'm a little scared." Lin Muyu rolled up his cloak. In fact, he was also very cold. "We are brother and sister. What are you worried about?" Qin Yin said again. Lin Muyu debated with himself for a few seconds. He immediately wrapped himself in his cloak and stood up. He came to the bed and sat down. Qin Yin giggled. "Why don't you take off your cloak? If you think it's inappropriate for men and women to touch each other, you can sleep with your clothes on." "Okay." Lin Muyu took off his cloak. Qin Yin lifted one side of the blanket and said with a smile, "Don't worry. Father won't know about this." "You don't have to worry." This sentence made Lin Muyu's face turn red. "I'm not scared. Then why are you trembling with fear? Look at you, your face is pale." I. While he was stuttering, Qin Yin pressed him down on the bed and covered him with the blanket. In the end, Lin Muyu's heart was beating extremely fast. He lay there as if he was about to faint. Qin Yin's face turned even redder. She turned to look out the window. Looking at the thunder and lightning, her beautiful face had a trace of loneliness. She said, Who are you?" Lin Muyu was stunned. In fact, he also knew that his identity was too suspicious. He was incompatible with this world. Qin Yin was so smart. How could she not guess something? On the other hand, Qin Yin closed her eyes. Her face was full of peace. She said, "No matter who you are, hug me. Xiaoyin likes you." She said it very calmly. Lin Muyu's mind went blank. He hesitated for a few seconds. He felt that he had to obey the princess's order. Otherwise, he would be committing an unpardonable crime. So he turned around and put his arm across Qin Yin's slender waist. He gently hugged her. Xiaoyin likes me. What kind is it? He asked. Qin Yin's delicate body trembled slightly. Her soft hand gently covered Lin Muyu's palm. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. It seemed to confirm her heart at this moment. After a while she said faintly, "For a lifetime we love each other." Lin Muyu's heart warmed. Although he was confused, there was one thing he was sure of. He liked Qin Yin. He liked everything about her. The person he liked also liked him. This was a great blessing. His palm unconsciously tightened. He hugged Qin Yin and said, "It's a pity that I don't belong to this world. Xiaoyin, However, Qin Yin suddenly turned around and their eyes met, interrupting him from continuing. Her bright eyes shone with a mesmerizing light as she looked deeply into Lin Muyu's eyes. She smiled faintly and said, "No matter who you is, no matter where you come from, and no matter how many people object, nothing can stop me from liking you. What do you think?" Lin Muyu was so moved that he was about to cry. Qin Yin said softly, "Brother Yu, if one day Xiaoyin ascends to the throne and becomes the empress, are you willing to be the empress for me?" Be the empress? Lin Muyu was stunned again. "I don't even know what to eat tomorrow morning. I really don't know how to answer you when you ask me such a faraway plan," Qin Yin giggled. She stretched out her snow-white arms and hugged his neck. Sleep. And? But how could he sleep like this? Chapter 223. The next morning the heavy rain did not stop, but they could not delay their journey, so they had to set off after breakfast. They bought 2 new cloaks with the money they earned from performing last night. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin put them on. This was a kind of cloak that could block the wind and rain, and was very suitable for traveling. "Young hero Lin, why are your eyes so red?" Du Yiming was leading a horse and he saw the key problem at a glance. Of course, Lin Muyu could not say that she slept with Qin Yin last night, tossing and turning the whole night between touching her and not touching her, and she did not sleep at all. If she said that, Qin Yin would kill her, so she said, "I'm not used to the climate here, so I can't sleep." "Oh, I see. I have a bottle of tranquilizer here, if you don't mind, please accept it." "No need, thank you." Lin Muyu did not want to owe people too much, so she refused flatly, then came to Qin Yin's side, helped her up the horse and said with a smile, "Let's go, let's continue our journey." "Okay." Qin Yin nodded with a smile, and her beautiful face was slightly rosy, as beautiful as the morning clouds, like a newly married young wife, and Lin Muyu was a little dazed. Indeed, beautiful women, this species was absolutely lethal to men. He could not help but think of the question Qin Yin asked last night. "Do you like me or Xiaoxi?" "I like both." "Then which one do you like more?" "I like both." "Humph, bastard, do you still want to eat both?" Her Royal Highness threatened fiercely. "In the future you can only like me, oh no, only like me a little more, or I'll ask father to cut your salary." "It's okay, I have money." "Boo-hoo, I'm so angry." Women were the ultimate creatures of jealousy and men were probably the ultimate creatures of control. In fact, when they were petty they were much scarier than women. The 3 of them rode slowly on the ancient path in the clouds. Lin Muyu held an umbrella and rested with her eyes closed. She silently circulated the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll to temper her bloodline and battle aura in order to raise her cultivation. At the same time she extended her spirit pulse technique. There was no one with a strong aura within a radius of several miles. She guessed that they had not been followed. Beside her, Du Yiming was trying to please Qin Yin. The umbrella dragon was following the 3 of them in the forest not far away. "Young Master Du, didn't you say that you would teach Xiaoyin the animal taming technique?" Lin Muyu suddenly asked. Du Yiming came to a sudden realization. "Oh, I almost forgot. Alright, then I'll start teaching Miss Xiaoyin the mantra of the art of taming beasts. Repeat after me. The spirit of all beasts has a ruler. Heaven's creation has endless uses." Lin Muyu continued to close her eyes and rested. She didn't try to secretly learn it. After all, it would be the same for Qin Yin to teach her after she learned it. Not long after, Du Yiming began to teach Qin Yin how to communicate with wild beasts and communicate with them. However, it seemed that Qin Yin still couldn't grasp the gist of it. After trying a few times, she couldn't even communicate with the warhorse. Du Yiming, on the other hand, patted his warhorse's head and said, "Horse, horse, cry 3 times for me to hear." The warhorse raised its head and cried 3 times. It was very magical. It seemed that this Du Yiming did have some ability. "Oh." Qin Yin closed her eyes, but she still couldn't communicate with the warhorse. She couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. Lin Muyu gently said, "Don't rush, take it slow." This immediately calmed Qin Yin down. She smiled and nodded. Yes. This made Du Yiming feel bad. A look of jealousy flashed across his face. At dusk, the heavy rain seemed to be about to stop. Qin Yin pulled the belt of the cloak in front of her chest and lifted the hood on her head. Her long hair fluttered gently in the wind. She touched her wet face, but she didn't want to touch the freckles. She carelessly stuck the freckles on her hand. Lin Muyu saw this and hurriedly said, Xiaoyin, you're... that? Qin Yin didn't know. She looked at him with wide eyes. What's wrong? At this time, Du Yiming looked over and saw Qin Yin's snow-white and flawless face. Suddenly, that gorgeous and graceful peerless face appeared in front of him. Du Yiming's eyes widened in an instant. He was almost petrified. He murmured, There's actually such a fairy-like woman in this world? Only then did Qin Yin realize that her freckles had fallen off. It was useless to be anxious. Anyway, she couldn't hide it from Du Yiming. Lin Muyu was calmer and said, Stick it on, okay? Qin Yin stuck the freckles on her face again, reducing her beauty by more than 50%. Lin Muyu said with a smile, Young Master Du, my sister Xiao Yin is indeed outstanding. The martial world is dangerous. For the convenience of traveling, we can only use this method. I hope you can keep this secret for us. Of course, Du Yiming nodded repeatedly. It's getting late. Let's walk a few more miles and find an inn to stay in? Okay. Not long before, there was indeed an inn. Du Yiming led the horse and walked in front. He said with a smile, I know the innkeeper of this inn. He's an old friend of mine. His name is Lu Jun. He'll definitely prepare a cheap first-class room for us tonight. Okay, thank you. After entering the inn as expected, a wretched-looking man of about 30 years old came forward. He said with a smile, Brother Du, long time no see. How have you been? Good. Du Yiming caressed the head of the umbrella dragon and said with a smile, Brother Lu, my two friends and I will be staying here for the night. Sorry to disturb you. Could you please arrange 2 superior rooms for them? Okay, no problem. Lu Jun laughed loudly, but his eyes lingered on Qin Yin. Lin Muyu was a little angry. This Lu Jun was not a good person. He was very despicable. But since she was in someone else's territory, she would endure it if she could. This time it was a superior room. There were 2 beds and the bedding was very soft. At least she could sleep well. If she continued to hug Qin Yin to sleep, Lin Muyu was very sure that she would not be able to sleep at all. It was too unbearable. After dinner they went to bed early. But for safety's sake, Lin Muyu still spread out the spirit pulse art and maintained a state of alert under the condition of light sleep. On the other hand, Qin Yin hugged the quilt and slept very sweetly. Lying on her side on the bed facing Lin Muyu, her sleeping face looked very beautiful. Late at night, Lin Muyu opened her eyes and let out a sigh of relief. The spirit pulse art was still spread out, searching for the surrounding energy aura. There were 2 cultivators living downstairs, both of whom were at the 3rd sky of the human realm. They were quite strong, but in Lin Muyu's eyes they were not worth mentioning. Soon her spirit pulse art found Du Yiming's room, but she found 2 auras. Something was wrong. Lin Muyu immediately used her battle energy to strengthen the hearing of the spirit pulse art. She could faintly hear the conversation between Du Yiming and Lu Jun. Brother Du, these 2 people today, how did you know them? That girl looks like she's a real gem. Brother Lu, you really have a good eye. Actually, the stain on Lin Yin's face is fake. If she removes the disguise, she can be said to be a peerless beauty. I really pity her. Is it really like what Brother Du said? It's absolutely true. If it wasn't for the sake of learning the animal taming art from me, I'm afraid that Lin Yu wouldn't have let me follow them. They don't know that I've slightly modified the formula. No matter how smart Lin Yin is, she won't be able to learn the animal taming art. Brother Du, when are we going to make our move? That Lin Yu has 2 swords with him. It looks like he's quite strong. No matter how strong he is, he's only at the 1st sky of the earth realm. After midnight, a tube of sleeping incense will make him unconscious. At that time, we'll enjoy that beauty Lin Yin first, then kill Lin Yu and sell her to the biggest restaurant in Lanyan City as a hostess. With her beauty, we can sell her for at least 10,000 Jinin coins. Okay, I'll prepare the sleeping incense. Okay. Lin Muyu slowly opened her eyes and sighed inwardly at the sinister nature of people. She got up and went to Qin Yin's side. She patted her shoulder and said softly, Xiaoyin, wake up. Qin Yin, however, seemed to be dreaming. She opened her arms and hugged Lin Muyu. She mumbled, Big brother Yu. This call almost made Lin Muyu drown. but she still opened her palm and the spirit pulse technique seeped into Qin Yin's mind. In the next moment, Qin Yin had already woken up. She opened her eyes wide and blushed. "Big brother Yu, what do you want to do?" "What else can I do?" Lin Muyu shook her head helplessly. She took out 2 bottles of concentration powder from her universe bag and said, "Du Yiming and Lu Jun want to use sleeping incense to harm us. This is concentration powder. Can resist 100 poisons. Xiaoyin, drink it." "Okay." Qin Yin obediently drank the concentration powder. Lin Muyu also drank a bottle. She then lay on the bed and said, "Pretend to be asleep. It won't be too late to kill them when they make a move." Okay. They waited like this for a long time. Finally there was a rustling sound from outside. The paper window was broken and a strange fragrance came in. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin continued to pretend to be asleep. Another 10 minutes later the door was opened with a squeak. Lu Jun and Du Yiming walked in. After closing the door, Lu Jun said, "Are you all dead asleep?" "That's for sure. My 100 poison ecstasy fragrance deserves its reputation." Lu Jun walked forward and shook Lin Muyu's shoulder. "Young hero Lin, wake up." Lin Muyu pretended not to know and continued to sleep. "She's really enchanted." Lu Jun chuckled and walked to Qin Yin's bedside. He said with a smile, "This charming little vixen is indeed beautiful after removing her makeup. Let me kiss her first." At this moment, Du Yiming pulled out his long sword and said with a smile, "I'll send you to heaven first, Lin Yu." But at this moment, a golden light flashed, and a glowing golden gourd vine broke out from the ground, wrapping around Du Yiming. Lin Muyu raised her hand and pulled out her iron sword, and with a swing, the blade of the sword was filled with the glow of battle energy. "Heaven. Heaven realm?" Du Yiming's eyes widened. Before he could finish speaking, his heart was already pierced. And Qin Yin opened her eyes. Lu Jun, who was close to her, was so frightened that he screamed and took a few steps back. At this moment, the cute umbrella dragon rushed over and pounced at Qin Yin with its claws and fangs bared. Buzz! The god-binding chain suddenly lit up and pierced through the umbrella dragon's abdomen, killing it instantly. Ping! Lu Jun broke through the window and actually escaped. Lin Muyu jumped out of the window with her sword in hand. She looked carefully at the surrounding night but couldn't find Lu Jun's figure. This Lu Jun didn't have a trace of cultivation, so the spirit pulse technique couldn't detect his location. "You're lucky," Lin Muyu snorted coldly and jumped up to the 2nd floor. "Xiaoyin will leave at night. We can't stay here anymore." "Yes." Lin Muyu bent down and searched Du Yiming's body. She immediately found a secret manual in his clothes. The words "Art of Psychic Communication" were written on it in yellowed handwriting. So it was this. She immediately passed it to Qin Yin and went downstairs with her horse. In the corner of the stable, a stallion was peeing. The urine flowed down the top of a person's head. This person was trembling all over as he squatted on the ground and looked into the distance. He said with a trembling voice, "My mother, what kind of people are these? They're too scary. Brother Du, you've sacrificed your life for our fellows in the flower-collecting world. Rest in peace, we will always remember you." Chapter 224. The next morning the heavy rain had stopped. A strange scene appeared on the ancient path in the clouds. A handsome young man was riding a skinny horse, and beside him was a beautiful girl riding another skinny horse. However, the horse that the girl was riding was actually moving backwards. "So fun," Qin Yin giggled. She held a book in her hand, which was the Art of Psychic Communication. She pressed her snow-white palm on the head of the skinny horse and said with a smile, "Big brother Yu, guess what the horse is thinking about? It must be thinking about whether it can eat fresh grass or hay for lunch." Lin Muyu replied with a smile. Qin Yin's mouth opened wide. "How did you know?" "Humph, is there even a need to think about it? I can guess it." Lin Muyu led the way in front and said, "Xiaoyin, stop torturing this skinny horse. Let it walk normally. At this speed, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the next inn by night." All right." Qin Yin patted the horse's back and said with a smile, Horse, you can walk normally now." The skinny horse neighed as if it had been pardoned. It turned around and no longer wanted to be tortured by the princess. It shook its head and tail as if it was very proud. After psychic communication, the warhorse naturally knew that the girl on its back was someone above tens of thousands of people. It couldn't help but feel that it was no longer a normal horse, but a divine horse of the princess. "Xiaoyin, is this art of psychic communication really that magical?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin nodded. You can use the power of soul to communicate with spiritual beast. However, the prerequisite is that the spiritual beast must be weaker than you. Otherwise, the spiritual beast will not communicate with humans at all. After communicating, you can use the absolute power of soul to conquer the spiritual beast. Naturally, you can tame the umbrella dragon like Du Yiming did. However, Du Yiming is, Qin blushed and said, that kind of rapist is not worth mentioning. Furthermore, Du Yiming's cultivation is low. This art of psychic communication has a total of 8 scrolls, and Du Yiming has only barely cultivated to the 2nd level. He is still far from the highest level of psychic communication. Is that so? Lin Muyu stretched out her hand and said with a smile, come Xiaoyin, let me learn as well. Qin giggled. You also wants to tame spirit beasts? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. How cool and arrogant it is to have a powerful pet. What do you think, Xiaoyin? Yeah, Qin pursed her red lips and said, it's a pity that there aren't any powerful spiritual beasts on this official road. Otherwise, we could tame a spiritual beast and test out the power of the spirit communication technique. There's nothing wrong with that. Lin Muyu took the spiritual communication technique and stuffed it into her bosom. She then unfurled the map and said, the ancient path in the clouds runs through the dragon-seeking forest. As long as we leave the area protected by the ancient path in the clouds, we'll be able to enter the dragon-seeking forest. By then we'll be able to tame any spiritual beast we want. Of course, the prerequisite is that we don't go too deep. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't even be able to keep our lives. Is that really possible? Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were wide open and filled with hope. Yes, we'll replenish our rations and water at the inn ahead at noon. After that, we can set off for the dragon-seeking forest. We won't take too long of a detour, so it won't affect our journey. Yes, okay. At noon, she replenished half a month's worth of dry rations at the inn in front. It was mostly bread and some water. She also bought an iron pot, a ladle, a simple tent, and so on. She threw them all into her cosmos sack. The iron pot and the white diamond crystals mixed together seemed out of place, but Lin Muyu didn't care about it. She didn't care about trifles if she wanted to achieve great things. In the afternoon, they took a detour into the dragon-seeking forest. Qin waved her purple blade and opened the way in front while Lin Muyu walked behind her. She held the spiritual communication technique book in her hands and carefully studied it. The first volume of the spiritual communication technique, Beast Language, mainly focused on how to understand the general meaning of the beast language so that it would be easier to communicate with wild beasts. In the Shattered Cauldron realm, the spirit beasts were all spiritual beings born from the spirit of the earth. They were ever-changing, but they were still the same. The first volume emphasized on the urgency, slowness, length and shortness of the beast language to analyze the meaning of the beast language. This was considered the first step in communicating with wild beasts. This was simple. Lin Muyu spent less than an hour to memorize it. The second volume, Spiritual Communication Technique. This was the most crucial chapter. It allowed one's spiritual perception to invade the spirit of wild beasts and fuse with the spirit beast soul. With Qin Yin's cultivation, she had already mastered the spiritual communication technique in the morning. On the other hand, Lin Muyu was even faster. Because his spirit meridian art had already tempered his spirit to the point that it far surpassed other cultivators of the same cultivation level, his spirit was much stronger than Qin Yin's. Therefore he understood it with just one try. In less than 10 minutes he could already communicate with his warhorse. The moment he communicated with it, his mind was filled with the smell of some green bristle grass, clear root grass, horsetail grass and other plants. That was all the warhorse's mind could think about all day long. It was still early. He looked at the horizon, then looked at Qin Yin, who was innately brandishing her sharp sword and activating her martial soul to cut down the thorns. He couldn't help but smile. It was time for the princess, Qin Yin, to gain some experience. Surviving in the wilderness was originally a way to hone one's willpower. As the princess of the empire, Qin Yin had a lot to bear in the future. The more she gained experience here, the more she could become a wise emperor. Continuing to practice the third volume, the subjugation technique. The main content of this volume was to use one's own spirit to forcefully subjugate a beast spirit, making the spirit beast submit to one's will. This feeling was similar to forceful taming. That Du Yiming did not seem to be able to achieve this step, probably because the strength of his spirit was not strong enough. Flipping through it further, there were still 5 more volumes in order. Nurturing, Assimilation, Armor Transformation, Sky Piercing and Spirit Transformation. The more he listened, the more he felt it was amazing. But he could only take it one step at a time. He had to complete the subjugation technique first. After studying it carefully for a while and memorizing all the words of the spiritual communication technique, Lin Muyu returned the book to Qin Yin. He then sat upon his warhorse and slowly circulated his dou qi, raising the strength of his spirit. Following the subjugation technique's mantra, he practiced it repeatedly. Not long after, he felt a warm current in his mind, as if it had seeped into his entire body. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. This was the power of beast taming mentioned in the spiritual communication technique. If he did not have this kind of power, he would not be able to truly tame a spirit beast. It was obvious that the relationship between Du Yiming and the Umbrella Dragon was not one of taming, but one of dependence. If one truly wanted to tame a spirit beast, they would have to sign a soul contract. Once Du Yiming died, the Umbrella Dragon would definitely die with its soul scattered. A pity that even after Du Yiming's death, the Umbrella Dragon still continued to attack Qin Yin. It was enough to show that Du Yiming's mastery in the spiritual communication technique was only at the tip of the iceberg. So the book ended up in the hands of Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. By nightfall, they had traveled far into the dragon-seeking forest. A few spirit beasts had appeared along the way, but they were only wild beasts with a lifespan of over 10 years and did not possess true spirituality. At this moment, Lin Muyu had already cultivated the power of beast taming. She was just waiting to find a spirit beast to test it out. Just then, there was a sudden fluctuation in the spiritual pulse technique. Lin Muyu quickly looked to the right and said, "Xiaoyin, there seems to be something following us over there." Qin Yin smiled. "What is it?" "You'll know when you see it." Lin Muyu suddenly raised her arm. Immediately, green vines swept across the ground with a shwa 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 sound followed by a howl. It was a snow leopard. There was a golden pattern and 2 silver patterns on its forehead. It was a 1,200-year-old spirit beast. At this moment, its limbs were tightly bound by the gourd vines. Lin Muyu's strength far surpassed this 1,200-year-old spirit beast. Her martial soul was exceptionally powerful. Naturally, the snow leopard could not break free from the gourd vines. Qin Yin urged her horse forward and said with a smile, "You wants to tame this snow leopard?" "Mem, I want to try. Xiaoyin, protect me." "Yes." Lin Muyu stood still. He could understand the snow leopard's roar, which was filled with anger. But after a few minutes, the roar became more drawn out and became a cry for mercy. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh out loud. He activated the spiritual pulse technique and sent his spirit sense into the snow leopard's mind. Lin Muyu's body trembled, as if he had entered a different dimension. From within the chaos, the snow leopard's beast spirit pounced forward, its claws extended. "Impudent!" Lin Muyu shouted and punched out, sending the snow leopard's beast spirit flying. Lin Muyu chased after it and stepped on its body, letting it howl in pain. Lin Muyu's spirit sense increased and the power of beast taming transformed into a white ripple that washed over the snow leopard's beast spirit. Not long after, the snow leopard's beast spirit trembled uncontrollably, begging for mercy. "Spare me, I am willing to submit." Suddenly, a voice rang out in Lin Muyu's mind. He opened his eyes and saw the snow leopard crawling before him, like a little puppy begging for mercy. It really submitted? Withdrawing his spirit sense, Lin Muyu placed his palm on the snow leopard's head and a milky white stream of warmth flowed into him. The spirit assimilation of the Conqueror Manual, allowing one's own soul to completely dominate the spirit beast's mind. That was the true conqueror, a conqueror that the spirit beast would never be able to resist. The snow leopard howled and crawled obediently at its master's feet, even wagging its tail. Qin Yin laughed lightly as she dismounted and stroked the snow leopard's head. She said with a smile, "Big brother you, it suddenly becomes so cute." "That is." Lin Muyu smiled proudly. But at this time the snow leopard suddenly howled violently. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, revealing its ferocious appearance. Traces of blood seeped out of its eyes and mouth, and it fell to the ground, struggling and crawling. It looked as if it was about to die. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu turned pale with fright. Qin Yin hurriedly flipped through the Conqueror Manual. She raised her head and said, "Big brother you, quickly stop using your spirit sense to invade its mind. This snow leopard's soul is not strong enough to withstand your soul, it's about to die." Lin Muyu did not want to let the snow leopard die in vain, so she quickly withdrew all of her spirit sense. Immediately the snow leopard's pain disappeared. It ran into the forest with its tail between its legs, not daring to attack Lin Muyu and Qin Yin anymore. She could not help but feel a little disappointed. Lin Muyu clenched her fists and said, Damn, the cooked duck flew away. Qin smiled lightly and comforted her. Don't be sad. Just find another spirit beast with a stronger soul and tame it. Chapter 225. The night sky was filled with stars. The bonfire swayed gently in the cold wind, and a simple tent was built under the rock wall. The bottom of the tent was padded with some hay, but it didn't seem to help. Fortunately, Lin Muyu also bought a quilt and stuffed it into the universe bag. This universe bag was really hard work. Without it, they wouldn't have been able to carry so many things. However, the quilt was slightly thin, so it wasn't possible to rely on it to keep out the cold. Moreover, the tent was quite shabby with holes all over it and the cold wind blew in. Qin took off her boots and hugged the quilt as she sat in the tent. She looked at the flickering flames outside and said with a smile, "Brother Ayu, it's cold outside. Come in quickly. Keep the flames burning and you can scare away most of the spirit beast." Okay. Lin Muyu added a few more thick sticks of firewood before opening the door of the tent. Bringing the cold wind with her, she entered the tent. However, her brows were still furrowed as she looked outside as if she was still worried. Qin couldn't help but giggle and asked, "What are you worried about? Dragon-seeking forest isn't an ordinary forest." Lin Muyu laughed at herself and said, "Last time I went to the depths of dragon-seeking forest with Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others, and we were almost killed by a spirit beast. I still have lingering fears when thinking about it. We must be extra careful when spending the night in dragon-seeking forest. Those spirit beasts are all smarter than the other." Qin chuckled. "But you also said that it's the depths of dragon-seeking forest, and we're only at the edge of dragon-seeking forest. How strong of a spirit beast can there be? Spirit beasts have a fixed territory. Normally, spirit beasts won't leave their territory unless something big happens. Brother, you know this habit too." Okay. Lin Muyu touched her nose and smiled. "It should be because it's afraid of being chased by the heaven beast that time." Heaven beast? Qin suddenly widened her eyes. You encountered a heaven beast?" "Yes. If it wasn't for the appearance of this heaven beast, Han Xiao wouldn't have died in front of us." "When did this happen?" "The second time was when I hunted 6,000-year-old light-type spirit stones for Yu Qiyan to forge a longsword for you." Lin Muyu leaned on the hard pillow and put her arms behind her head. She sighed and said, "That was a 13,000-year-old heaven beast. We weren't its match at all. We were lucky to escape alive that time." "Oh my god, a heaven beast that's more than 10,000 years old? That's a legendary sacred beast." Qin was slightly angry as she said, "I didn't know about this at all. It must be that bastard supervisor Che Cheong's idea. Humph, I'll definitely punish her after we return to the Zetian Palace." "No need." Lin Muyu tilted her head and looked at her. "Xiaoyin, the Imperial Guard's mission is to protect Zetian Palace Hall, and the Eagle Guard's duty is to provide some precious spirit stones for the Imperial family. You might not know about Che Cheong ordering the Eagle Nest camp to patrol, but Father definitely knows. So don't pursue this matter. It's already in the past anyway." Qin was stunned. She gently moved her body and looked at Lin Muyu apologetically with her beautiful eyes. Like a little girl who had done something wrong, she whispered, "Big brother, you please forgive Father. He's the Emperor, and when he gave the order, he was sitting on the Emperor's throne. I believe he didn't mean to disregard your life." "Okay, I know." Lin Muyu smiled. "I know the rules of this world and I'll learn to follow them. But Xiaoyin, if you become the Emperor in the future, will you also disregard life like this?" Qin shook her head forcefully. "No, I promise." "Okay, that's good." Lin Muyu closed her eyes and said, "Then in the future, on your path to becoming the Emperor, anyone who makes an enemy of you will be my enemy. I promise I will support you with all my strength until the day you become the Emperor." "Will you be there on the day I become the Emperor?" Qin asked faintly. "Yes, I definitely will." Lin Muyu nodded. "Okay, that's good." Qin gently held Lin Muyu's hand and pressed it against her snow-white face. She closed her eyes and said, "I hope we can be like this forever. Don't let power taint our relationship." "I won't." Okay. Not long after, Qin entered Dreamland. She still held Lin Muyu's left hand in her arms and held it tightly. She slept peacefully like a beautiful elf born from the forest, making people feel infatuated and intoxicated. It was almost dawn, but it was still dark outside. Lin Muyu had also fallen asleep. The bonfire crackled and burned the last of the wood, leaving only a wisp of smoke floating in the mountains. "Huff! In the distance, a pack of wolves bared their teeth and mucus slowly dripped from their mouths. Their brown eyes stared fixedly at the simple and crude tent. To them it was a delicious meal. The alpha wolf's eyes faintly glowed with a golden luster. It had already gained intelligence. It let out a low growl as it looked into the distance. Its eyes were filled with greed. It could sense that the two people in the tent were faintly emanating spiritual energy. To it, this was a delicious meal. When a spirit beast devours the bodies of humans with cultivation, it can also greatly increase and accelerate its lifespan and cultivation. Lifespan was only a standard to evaluate a spiritual beast's strength. A 10,000-year-old spiritual beast might not really have lived for 10,000 years. Perhaps 3,000 years of these 10,000 years were provided by humans. Roar! The alpha wolf suddenly roared and led more than 30 wolves down the mountain, heading straight for the tent. In his sleep, Lin Muyu's spiritual meridian technique produced a violent fluctuation. He suddenly woke up and quickly retracted his hand. He shook Qin Yin's fragrant shoulder and said, "Xiaoyin, don't sleep anymore. A spiritual beast is sneaking up on us. Wake up quickly." Qin Yin quickly sat up and put on her little boots. At the same time, she took out a blue space bag from her waist and took out an exquisite 7-string jade zither. "What are you going to do with the zither?" Lin Muyu asked in surprise. "It's a pack of swift wolves that attacked us. Are you going to smash them to death with the zither?" Qin Yin chuckled. "You'll find out later." "All right." Lin Muyu carried the sword and walked out of the tent. The pack of wolves in the distance had already scurried over. There were more than 30 of them and they were aggressive. The alpha wolf was a swift wolf with golden fur at the tip. It looked very different. There were 3 golden patterns on its head, and it was a 3,000-year-old spiritual beast. The rest of the swift wolves lived between 100 to 2,000 years, and they were not very strong. The dragon spirit sword softly let out a sword cry, as if it was cheering for the upcoming slaughter. At this time, Qin Yin also carried the 7-string jade zither to Lin Muyu's side. Her body was surrounded by dense battle energy, and the milky white battle energy suddenly floated in front of her like a light mist. Holding the 7-string jade zither, Qin Yin's clothes fluttered as she stood in front of the zither. Strands of golden god-binding chains martial soul lingered around her graceful body like a golden curtain. At this time, although Qin Yin was wearing a simple young girl's attire, she was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. This kind of temperament and aura was not something an ordinary woman could compare to. "Big brother, you don't make a move first. Watch me." Qin Yin confidently puffed out her chest. She was still young, but she had already developed very well. Her pair of peaks looked as if they were about to burst out of her clothes. Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a second look. Her heart was shaken, and she hurriedly used the spirit pulse technique to control her mind. Roar! A few giant wolves roared and rushed over. Each of them opened their bloody mouths wide, ready to pounce on Yang Ling. At this time, Qin Yin suddenly raised her hand, and a sharp zither sound swept past. Carrying the power of the god-binding chain's martial soul, it turned into a golden sound wave that directly attacked the wolves. Pung ping ping, the sound did not stop. 3 wolves howled miserably as they died in the wilderness. They didn't even have the strength to fight back. Qin Yin smiled sweetly at Lin Muyu. She raised her hand again and another golden sound wave flew out. The zither sound was sharp and it quickly killed 4 wolves. At this rate, Lin Muyu really didn't need to do anything. Just Qin Yin alone was enough to deal with this group of wolves. This was taught by Chu, right? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Yes. Qin Yin nodded her head, but her hands didn't stop moving. She smiled faintly and said, "As the princess tutor, Elder Chu used the god-binding shackles martial soul's power and the ingenuity of the demonic noise fist to create a sound wave attack martial art. By combining the power of the god-binding shackles with sound, the lethality of the attack will be greatly increased." Yes. Lin Muyu secretly praised. The god-binding chains was the #1 martial soul in the world. Its powerful attack power was indeed incomparable to other martial souls. Fortunately, her green gourd walked the path of defense. If it had walked the path of offense, it would not have lasted more than 3 rounds against the god-binding chains. This was probably the principle of everyone having their own strengths. Very quickly, more than 30 wolves were almost finished off by Qin Yin. The leader of the wolves was also injured by the sound wave attack, and it was about to limp away. Qin Yin hugged her zither and said with a smile, "Big brother you, let's catch this 30-100-year golden crag swift wolf. Xiaoyin wants to tame it as a pet." Lin Muyu raised her sword and chased after it. Every step she took was like a meteor falling to the ground. The golden crag swift wolf would not be able to outrun her even if it was not injured. Swoosh, swoosh, gourd vines that glowed with golden light burst out of the ground and quickly wrapped around the golden crag swift wolf's body. It howled in pain and flailed its legs wildly, tearing apart a few vines. However, Lin Muyu was already in front of it. She raised the hilt of her sword and smashed it into the golden crag swift wolf's head. Bang! It immediately became obedient. It howled in pain and collapsed into the gourd vines. Like a puppy, it begged for mercy from Lin Muyu and Qin. Qin giggled. Don't worry, we won't kill you. We just want you to come with us. Chapter 226. Qin closed her eyes, and the god-binding chains wrapped around her like a golden dress. The chains fused with the beast-taming power and strengthened the bond between her and the gold crag swift wolf. Woo-woo! At first, the gold crag swift wolf fought back fiercely, but in less than 10 minutes, it was wagging its tail and licking its ears to please its beautiful master, Qin. This grandson. Lin Muyu couldn't help but chuckle. Qin slowly opened her eyes and smiled. Big brother, you remove the gourd vines. The contract is complete. Okay. Lin Muyu waved her hand, and the gourd vines disappeared into the wind. The gold crag swift wolf wagged its tail and pounced into its mistress' arms. It even extended its tongue and tried to lick Qin's face. Lin Muyu wasn't happy about this. She quickly pushed its head away and said sourly, You beast, let go of my Xiaoyin. Qin burst into laughter. Her cheeks were flushed with a beautiful blush. However, the gold crag swift wolf wasn't happy. It immediately bared its sharp teeth and bit down on Lin Muyu's fist. Lin Muyu opened her hand, and the golden gourd martial soul quickly condensed in her palm. The gold crag swift wolf immediately cowered and whimpered. It wagged its tail and approached Qin from another direction. Although the gold crag swift wolf looked strong and fierce, it was like a cute pet at this moment. Qin's heart almost melted. She smiled and said, Big brother, you don't bother with this little wolf. Then you can't let it lick your face. Lin Muyu said jealously. I don't want what? Qin looked at him with a mischievous smile. Lin Muyu originally wanted to say, I don't want to lick the same place as a wolf, but thinking that it might offend and disrespect the princess, she changed her words and said, I don't want Xiaoyin to get infected by some wild animal disease. Qin was a little disappointed. Oh, that's all? What else do you want? Lin Muyu countered. Qin's face immediately turned red. Let's go. Let's pack our things and continue on our way. Otherwise, we don't know when we'll reach Mu City. Grandfather might be waiting anxiously. He doesn't know that you're going to see him in person, you're right? Thus, the team's formation changed once more. 2 humans, 2 mounts, and a golden rock swift wolf rode beside Qin. After communicating with the golden rock swift wolf, Qin seemed to be able to read the golden rock swift wolf's thoughts at any time. She pursed her lips and held back her laughter as she said, Big brother, do you know what the little wolf was thinking just now? What was it thinking? It was thinking that these 2 skinny horses must not be delicious. There's too little meat and they're all bones. They're not even enough to fill the gaps between its teeth. Really? Lin Muyu tilted her head and looked at the golden rock swift wolf. She laughed. This beast actually wants to eat our horses. If you dare touch a hair on these 2 horses, I promise I won't kill you. The golden rock swift wolf looked up at Lin Muyu and couldn't help but clamp its tail between its legs. It whimpered and leaned against Qin's leg. Qin giggled. Do you know what it's thinking now? Nothing good, that's right. It's thinking that although this man is very strong, he's too ugly. He doesn't meet the aesthetic standards of werewolves at all. He doesn't even have a bit of fat on his belly. That's the aesthetic standards of food, right? Lin Muyu smiled. This old man's 9-pack is not for nothing. How can there be fat on my belly? That's enough. Qin's face was flushed. Although she had never seen Lin Muyu naked, just thinking about it was enough to make her heart beat faster. She didn't dare to think about it anymore. Just like that, 2 people and 1 wolf walked on the mountain road until evening. Looking at the map, they were about 5 or 6 days away from Mu City. They weren't in a hurry, so they walked slowly. It was getting late, so they should reduce their travel at night. After all, there were too many dangers here. They could be attacked by a pack of wolves at any time. Dozens of wolves were fine, but if there were thousands of them, then it would be difficult to deal with them. Although Lin Muyu and Qin's cultivation was already at the peak of the younger generation, their physical strength and battle chi were limited. If they encountered thousands of wolves, then they might die. The iron pot was propped up above the bonfire. Qin Yin was kneeling at the side, seasoning the wild vegetables into the meat soup. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, had chopped some dry firewood and returned with it in her arms. At this moment, a faint sound came from the side of the mountain. It seemed to be the sound of a branch being stepped on. Someone is coming. Lin Muyu put down the firewood and whispered, "It looks like they're coming with bad intentions." Who could it be? Qin Yin didn't look up. She only slightly increased her battle chi, and the god-binding lock was not released. Who knows? Let's wait for them to make a move first. Condense your aura shield. I know. She smiled sweetly. Don't worry, Xiaoyin can protect herself. Lin Muyu naturally put down her guard. There were a total of 24 human auras on the mountain, and the strongest was only at the first level of the Earth realm. Even if this group of people attacked together, they might not be a match for Qin Yin, not to mention herself. However, those people didn't seem to attack too early. They probably wanted to use bows and arrows to attack from afar. The mountain was 200 meters away from here. Their arm strength shouldn't be able to reach 200 meters, right? But at this moment, the people hiding in the wild forest attacked. Whoosh! A sharp arrow pierced through the air. The arrow was imbued with true energy, and it still maintained its speed and power when it was only 10 meters away from Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. As expected, there was someone capable. However, Lin Muyu had long since seen through this arrow. She took a step forward and appeared in front of Qin Yin. Her palms were covered in battle armor, and her energy swept out. With a loud bang, the arrowhead and the arrow shaft were smashed into pieces. The battle chi dissipated in the air and spun rapidly. On the mountain, the sound of swords being unsheathed could be heard. A group of people also stood up. They were all dressed like mercenaries. One of them held a spear and shouted, "Charge down there and kill those two. Take their heads and you'll be rewarded 5,000 Jianghu coins. Brothers, it's time to get rich. Kill them." Qin Yin continued to pick and wash the wild vegetables and put them into the pot. She smiled and said, "Big brother, do you need me to do it?" "No need." Lin Muyu chuckled coldly. Another group of mercenaries who value money more than their lives. How annoying. Qin Yin chuckled. This is a difficult world. Jianghu coins can help people survive, so it's naturally very attractive. These people are only killing for money. Perhaps, there's no need to kill them all. Big brother, please spare their lives. Just don't let them continue to harm others. Lin Muyu slowly pulled out her dragon spirit sword. Then I'll destroy their seas of vital energy so they can't continue to cultivate, but they'll still have the strength to farm and graze. Is that fine? That's for the best. Remember to capture one of them and find out who hired them to kill us. All right. At this moment, the Goldrock Quick Wolf beside Qin Yin was howling with rage. Its golden fur was already standing on end, and it looked like it was going to charge out and feast on the two of them at any moment. Qin Yin reached out and patted the wolf's head with a smile. "Stay here and don't move. Big brother, you will take care of them." The swift wolf immediately stopped howling. It wagged its tail and ears and began to flatter its mistress. At this moment, Lin Muyu had already rushed out. The walls of the golden gourd quickly protected her body. After deflecting a few arrows, she leaped up and slashed down from the sky with her sword. With a crack, a mercenary's shield was split in half. At the same time, the blade of her sword trembled slightly, and a ray of sword chi pierced into the mercenary's sea of vital energy. Ah! The mercenary clutched his stomach and rolled on the ground, howling miserably. True energy leaked out and his cultivation was crippled just like that. Lin Muyu's movement technique was exquisite. He shuttled back and forth between the crowd and the swords like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, dozens of mercenaries had their sea of vital energy destroyed. On the other hand, Lin Muyu still had a lazy look on her face. She raised her hand and sheathed the dragon spirit sword. She said indifferently, "All right, your cultivation has been crippled. Go home and farm. Don't come out and harm people." As she spoke, she lifted the mercenary with the longbow and said coldly, "Tell me who hired you to kill me?" The mercenary's face was full of anger. He said, "You bastard, you destroyed my sea of vital energy and you still want to trick me? In your dreams. We, the Fierce Tiger Mercenary Group, will never reveal any information about our employer." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu took out a diamond coin from his cosmos sack and shook it. The diamond coin glowed alluringly under the setting sun. He smiled and said, "If you tell me, I'll give you this diamond coin, As expected, the integrity of the fierce tiger mercenary group was only worth 1,000 gold coins. The mercenary leader's face was filled with a conflicted expression. Lin Muyu added, "Your cultivation has already been crippled. If you take these 1,000 Jianghu coins back home, at least you'll have something to answer for. Otherwise you'll have nothing left. As the leader, shouldn't you spare a thought for your brothers?" Finally, the mercenary leader relented. He said, "It's a wealthy man called Lu Jun. He hired us to kill 2 siblings. One is Lin Yu and the other is Lin Yin. He said that by killing you he would be able to avenge his close friend, Du Yiming. You can look for Lu Jun if you have any grudges or grievances. It has nothing to do with us. Got it? Hurry up and scram." Lin Muyu threw the diamond coin on the ground as compensation. Otherwise, these mercenaries wouldn't even have enough money to buy a cow when they returned home. Lin Muyu frowned as she watched the mercenaries leave. She returned to Qin Yin's side and said, "Xiaoyin, we shouldn't stay here for long. Let's travel through the night after we finish eating. We'll reach the Daojiang River's tributary about 50 li ahead. We can set up camp by the river and sleep until noon tomorrow." Qin Yin nodded with a smile. Yes, I'll listen to you. Come and try my soup. How is it?" Lin Muyu tasted it and her face turned green. "Is it good?" "Delicious. Why is your voice hoarse? You'll have to ask how much salt you put in. I'm in the wrong." "No, you're not in the wrong. It's the salt that's wrong." Chapter 227. Feeling thirsty, Lin Muyu rode on the skinny horse and continued on her way. As they were in the dragon-seeking forest at night, she did not have to worry about exposing her identity. Lin Muyu immediately used the secret art of sword kinesis with fire. The dragon spirit sword blazed brightly as it flew in front, opening up a path. Lin Muyu brought Qin Yin along as she sped forward. 3 hours later they arrived at a river basin. A cool breeze blew, bringing with it the smell of river water. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin led the horse along the river slowly. They could even see the weeds sprouting on the ground. This meant that spring was coming and the harsh winter was about to pass. Rice River was a large river in the imperial capital's Mother River Basin. It was formed from the melting of the snowy mountains in the north of the Seven Seas Province. It flowed through the Seven Seas Province, North Ridge Province, South Zhangnan Province and Heaven's Pivot Province. It seemed that the humans of the mainland were born around the Rice River Basin. This was the birthplace of human civilization in this plain. Now that they had entered the Cloud Province, the Rice River in front of them was just a branch of the Rice River. It was already 1,000 meters wide. One could imagine how magnificent the main stream of the Rice River was. A towering tree soared into the sky, standing straight at the edge of Daojiang. Lin Muyu pointed and smiled. "Shall we camp under this tree tonight?" "Yes." Qin Yin nodded and smiled. "Just right. It's convenient to get water here. We don't have to walk too far to get water tomorrow morning." "Yes." After setting up the tent, it seemed that the humidity in the air had increased by a lot. It was far less cold than in the dragon-seeking forest. They started a bonfire and opened a small corner of the tent. Lin Muyu leaned on the pillow and looked at the Rice River. She suddenly asked, "Xiaoyin, why are there no boats on the Rice River?" "This?" Qin Yin thought for a moment and said, "I've read about the Rice River in the Cloud Province in the past. It seems that there are some water monsters living in the Rice River Basin. They often make boats. Therefore, only some shallow water fishing boats and some imperial warships dare to pass through the Rice River Basin in the Twilight Rain City." "Is that so?" "Yeah, that's what I heard, but I don't know if there are any water monsters." "Then go to bed early. Leave the Goldrock Swift Wolf outside to keep watch." "And all right." Lin Muyu covered herself with the quilt and slowly fell asleep. She could hear Qin Yin's gentle breathing. It seemed that Qin Yin was used to hugging Lin Muyu's arm to sleep. He chuckled inwardly and didn't say anything else. With the 3,000-year-old Golden Rock Swift Wolf guarding the perimeter, it should be relatively safe. The art of psychic mastery was indeed a good thing. If Qin Yin's soul could tame a 3,000-year-old Golden Rock Swift Wolf, then wouldn't his own soul be able to tame a 5,000-year-old Golden Rock Swift Wolf? Thinking of this, he actually felt a little excited. The next morning, Qin Yin woke up early and went to get some water for cooking. However, Lin Muyu was still worried and followed her to the riverside. She saw that the river was turbulent and there were even huge waves that were several meters high in the center. "I'm going to cook. This time I'll make sure to use less salt," Qin Yin said with a smile. "Okay, go ahead." Lin Muyu remained by the riverside and gazed into the distance. There were 7 or 8 huge whirlpools in the middle of the river, but they made him feel a little uneasy. His spiritual pulse art could also detect faint fluctuations of spiritual energy, as if there was something hidden in the depths of the river. Could it really be as Qinyin said that there was a water monster? Whoosh, whoosh. One of the huge whirlpools was at least 100 meters in diameter. Icy air rose from the center and quickly dissipated in the warm wind. The energy that Lin Muyu sensed was in this whirlpool. What exactly was it? He couldn't be sure. He couldn't jump into the river with his sword. Not to mention that his swimming skills weren't that good. If there really was a water monster in the river, he would be courting death. Awoo! The golden crag swift wolf was like a big dog lying by the river, howling at the water. This made Lin Muyu even more certain that there was something hiding in the river. He patted the golden crag swift wolf's head and said, "Little wolf, let's go back. We shouldn't stay by the river anymore." Woo woo! The swift wolf followed him back with its tail between its legs. "Did you find anything?" Qinyin's soup was almost done. "Nothing." Lin Muyu shook his head and said, "Let's hurry up and eat. After we finish eating, we'll leave immediately. Don't rush along the river. It's not safe here." Could there really be a water monster? It's hard to say. All right, hurry up and eat. Xiaoyin will get you some soup. Holding the big bowl, Lin Muyu wolfed down the meat soup. His body warmed up, and he suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. However, at this moment, the howling of the golden crag swift wolf came from the river. It sounded like it was wailing and full of fear. Damn it, why did that stupid wolf still go over? She hurriedly put down the bowl and unsheathed the dragon spirit sword. With a clang, Lin Muyu summoned her gourd martial soul and rushed over. Qinyin also carried her zither and followed behind. The golden rock swift wolf was already howling miserably in the water. Its body had been entangled by strange thorny arms, and it was sinking into the water. Lin Muyu immediately raised her hand and shouted, "Entangle!" Golden gourd vines rose from the river and pulled the golden crag swift wolf's sinking body. At the same time, it struggled to send the wolf to the shore. They had to leave the river or else Lin Muyu wouldn't have the confidence to win. As the golden crag swift wolf rushed to the shore, a huge creature was dragged out of the river. It was a water monster that looked like a hydra. "Jejia!" The water monster roared loudly. However, upon closer inspection, one could see that the real head was only the one in the middle. It looked like a dragon's head and was dark blue in color. The other 8 limbs were covered in thorns and sharp blades. Even though the golden crag swift wolf was covered in golden flaming armor, it was still covered in blood. Qinyin's heart ached when she saw this. She immediately sent out a sound wave attack. With Qinyin's help, the golden attack landed on the water monster's body. The water monster flew into a rage out of humiliation and rushed to the shore. This time, it was even more certain that this was a horned dragon that lived at the bottom of the river. It was an ice attribute spirit beast. There were 5 golden patterns on its head. It was a 5,000-year-old spirit beast. However, this thing didn't look like a dragon at all. Instead, it looked more like a disgusting and terrifying monster. It was a complete and utter water monster. "It's the frost-armored dragon." Qinyin's eyes turned cold. "Big brother, you be careful. The frost-armored dragon's restraining ability is very strong. Once you are bound by its blade-like arms, it will be very difficult to escape." "I know." One could imagine it just by looking at the sorry state the golden crag swift wolf was in. However, if it was only a 5,000-year-old spirit beast, then there was nothing to fear. The dragon spirit sword spun rapidly under the cover of the raging flames. The moment it appeared, it used fire to control the sword. Lin Muyu raised her hand and used the wall of the gourd to block the frost-armored dragon's blade-like arms. Blood surged in her heart as she punched out with her demonic sound fist. The horned dragon's body trembled slightly. However, it didn't die from the injury. Instead, it swung its blade-like arms at Lin Muyu even more ferociously. The tips of these blade-like arms were like long spears and possessed astonishing destructive power. In the blink of an eye, a deep hole was left in the wall of the gourd. Lin Muyu felt her scalp go numb just looking at it. At this moment, the dragon spirit sword had already launched its attack. With 3 consecutive slashes, 3 of the frost-armored dragon's blade-like arms were severed. Green blood splattered everywhere. It was an extremely disgusting sight. "Kiki!" Amidst the screams, the frost-armored dragon suddenly pounced forward. Its abdomen suddenly opened, revealing a huge mouth full of sharp teeth. With a hua sound, it enveloped Lin Muyu's body. "Big brother, you!" Qinyin was so anxious that tears were about to fall from her eyes. Since Lin Muyu had been swallowed, she didn't dare to use sound waves to attack. That would hurt Lin Muyu. Fortunately, at this moment, a golden light broke through the frost-armored dragon's abdomen. The dragon spirit sword had directly cut through the frost armor. Lin Muyu's entire body was wrapped in Do Chi armor. How could she be killed by a mere 5,000-year-old spiritual beast? She leaped into the air and stood in the wind. With a wave of her finger, the surrounding river water rose up and condensed into water swords under the guidance of the sword manipulation technique. In the next moment, the swords shot out in a concentrated manner, sword manipulation technique. Ping, ping, ping. The frost-armored dragon's hard armor was riddled with holes. Miserable howls rang out incessantly. In the blink of an eye, it was riddled with holes. But with the support of its strong vitality, it actually moved its body rapidly towards the river water. It seemed to be trying to escape. You still want to leave? Lin Muyu was in such a sorry state. How could she let the frost-armored dragon go so easily? She grabbed the long sword and slashed down from the sky. Kacha. Another 2 blade-like arms were severed. The 9-headed snake had become a 5-headed snake. At this moment, Qin suddenly raised her sword and attacked. Her sword suddenly landed on the side of Lin Muyu. With a ping sound, the energy of the god-binding chain shattered. At the same time, there was a strange howl. That was another horned dragon that had tried to attack Lin Muyu. It was the second frost-armored dragon. Through the spirit pulse technique, countless powerful auras were surging up from the bottom of the river. Lin Muyu's heart turned cold. She hurriedly wrapped her arms around Qin Yin's slender waist and activated the falling star steps to leave the riverside. Let's go, it's not good. Qin Yin was stunned. She turned around and saw numerous dark blue heads poking out from the river surface. Her scalp went numb. No one would have thought that there would be so many frost-armored dragons living at the bottom of the river. So many, run for your life and you still dare to lament? Luckily, the campsite was about 500 meters away from the river. The murderous frost-armored dragons only chased them for about 100 meters before retreating. It was as if they had also sensed that the shore was not their territory. There are more than 100 of them, Qin Yin said with lingering fear. Most of them have a lifespan of 2,000 to 4,000 years. It's so scary. I finally know why Grandpa issued a fishing ban and forbade fishermen from fishing in Daojiang. Lin Muyu's heart went numb. Such a scary mother river. It's too inhumane. Pack up the tent and let's go. A single frost-armored dragon was already so scary. Lin Muyu was very sure that if she had jumped into the river to fight it, she would have died without a corpse. Chapter 228. Not long after leaving the waters of the Daojiang River, 2 roads appeared in front of them. One was to cross the mountain range in the west and head towards the main road near the ancient path in the clouds. The other was a canyon in front of them. After passing through the canyon, they could take a shortcut to the border of the Cloud Province. Qin Yin flipped through the map several times and asked, "Big brother you, which road do you support?" "The official road is too ostentatious, so it's not suitable. If we take the canyon path," Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and looked into the distance, saying, "This canyon path seems to have not been used for at least 100 years. It's completely a primeval forest. I'm worried that if we take this path, it will be even more dangerous. However, the danger from wild beasts is much less than from humans. I think we should take the canyon path." "Alright, it's a small path. Let's go." After entering the canyon, there were cliffs on both sides. The trees in the canyon were all so tall that they reached the sky. The ground was covered with a thick layer of leaves that were slowly withering. It was clear that no one had stepped into this place for a very long time. "Be careful." Lin Muyu suddenly felt a wave of alarm in her heart. She pulled Qin Yin and hid under a cliff. They could only hear the sound of an eagle's cry in the sky. A giant eagle with a wingspan of at least 10 meters flew over their heads. Qin Yin widened her beautiful eyes in shock. She watched the giant eagle fly far away before sticking out her tongue and saying with a smile, "This giant eagle has at least 10,000 years of cultivation, right? It can only be higher and not lower." Lin Muyu nodded with lingering fear in her heart. "We have to be careful. A 10,000-year-old spirit beast actually appeared in the vicinity. It's not simple. I feel a bit uneasy." Just be careful." They continued on their way and encountered 2 foraging spirit beasts along the way. One was a 7,000-plus-year-old scarlet flame tiger and the other was an 8,400-year-old frost lizard. Speaking of which, it was really strange. Didn't creatures like lizards hibernate during the winter? However, this lizard moved with heavy steps and walked around the mountains. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin even saw this lizard swallow a 120-year-old wild boar with their own eyes. That wild boar was really pitiful. It intruded into this area that it shouldn't have. It was simply courting death. It was almost noon and it was time to find a place to rest. At this moment, Qin Yin pointed to the mountainside in front of them and said with a smile, "You look. There's a temple there. Should we go and take a look?" Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. "It's an abandoned temple. What's the point of going there? I'm just curious." "All right then." Lin Muyu couldn't dissuade the little princess. She smiled and said, "I'll take a look and leave." "Yes." It was already afternoon when the two of them were halfway up the mountain. This temple had been abandoned for many years. The front hall was almost completely weathered into ruins. It was full of fallen leaves. The main hall still had some broken bricks and tiles. There was even a bronze statue that looked very old standing in the ruins. It was a Buddha statue with its palms together. However, it was covered in green copper, and the head of the Buddha statue had been weathered away. Lin Muyu gently reached out and touched it. Immediately, one of the hands of the Buddha statue crumbled and fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Damn, how many years has it been for it to be abandoned to this extent? Lin Muyu was secretly shocked. She said, "At least 2,000 years? No." Qin Yin wiped the green copper off the base of the Buddha statue and said, "At least 30,000 years of history? How can Xiao Yin be so sure?" "Because of this." Qin Yin pointed to a row of words that Lin Muyu couldn't understand at the base of the Buddha statue. She said, "This ancient Buddha statue is called Xuanji Buddha, but the carvings on the base are Xiannan Buddha." Father had asked Xiao Yin to study the Buddhist scriptures, so Xiao Yin naturally knew that the Shattered Cauldron Realm continent worshipped 9 great Buddha. Xiannan Buddha was one of them. However, the name was changed to Xuanji Buddha during the war 30,000 years ago. Therefore, most people only know of Xuanji Buddha but not Xiannan Buddha. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu secretly sighed. The Buddhism of this world was completely different from her world. They actually didn't worship Vairocana. Qin Yin sincerely knelt in front of the Buddha statue. After praying for a while, she smiled and said, "Although the empires and dynasties of the continent have changed many times, the beliefs have never changed. They have always believed in the 9 great Buddha. Brother Yu, let's go. We can't stay here for long. This place has been abandoned for at least 10,000 years. Who knows what might be there?" "Okay." Lin Muyu nodded. However, just as she was about to leave, her heart suddenly moved. The spirit pulse technique rippled, as if there was spiritual energy fluctuating somewhere. Carefully sensing it, it was actually under her feet. "What's wrong?" Qin Yin looked at him in surprise. Lin Muyu immediately pulled out the dragon spirit sword and said, "Xiao Yin, it seems like we might have found a treasure. I can feel energy fluctuations underground. It's not deep. Let me dig." Qin Yin couldn't help but laugh. This place has been abandoned for 10,000 years. What good things could there be? Who knows? We'll know once we dig. With a spin of the dragon spirit sword, Lin Muyu acted as an excavator and quickly dug a hole in the ground. Qin Yin stood to the side and smiled as she watched him search for treasures. Not long after, they dug nearly 5 meters deep. Suddenly, with a clang, the dragon spirit sword hit a hard object. It was actually able to block the sharpness of the dragon spirit sword, which was enough to show that it was definitely a treasure. Lin Muyu hurriedly bent down and gently pushed away the soil with her palm. However, she saw a bare, blood-stained lump of iron. She raised her hand and grabbed it, pulling it out with force. The more she pulled, the longer it grew. It was actually an iron rod that was nearly a meter long. To be more specific, it was a long piece of iron. It didn't look like a sword because there was no edge at all. The 2 sides were the same width. Perhaps it was a bit like a clumsy ancient measuring ruler. He jumped out of the deep pit and held the ruler in his hand. The energy fluctuations came from the ruler. "What is this?" Qin Yin tilted her head and asked with a smile. "I don't know either." Lin Muyu took out a water bag and carefully washed it. Immediately, the true appearance of the thing was revealed. It was indeed a ruler, but it was filled with words that Lin Muyu couldn't understand. He handed the ruler to Qin Yin. "Xiao Yin, do you recognize these words?" Qin Yin frowned slightly and looked at it for a long time. She shook her head. "These are obscure ancient words. Xiao Yin can only understand 1 or 2 words. The rest are things I've never seen before. My head hurts." Lin Muyu speechlessly wrapped the metal ruler with a black cloth and carried it on her back together with the dragon spirit sword. She smiled and said, "Forget it, let's hurry on. When we get back, we'll refine this ruler and see what the metal is like." And then let's go. After leaving the ancient temple, they climbed over a mountain and exited the canyon. When night fell, they set up camp in the forest. After setting up a campfire, Lin Muyu continued to patrol the surroundings. After confirming that there was no danger, he entered the tent and slept side by side with Qin Yin. In his sleep, his body suddenly trembled and he slowly woke up. It felt like a dream, but the dream was very real. He dreamt that a man dressed in black had pierced his heart with a sword. This was like a warning. The spiritual pulse technique naturally spread out. Lin Muyu suddenly felt a chill in his heart. He shouted that something was wrong. A powerful force was already in front of him, but he was completely unaware. He reached out and carried Qin Yin, who was still sleeping, out of the room. Shwa. In the cold night, a streak of sword light pierced through the tent, splitting the bedding they had just been covering in half. But Lin Muyu's sword was also very fast, quickly shredding the tent. She stood in an open space with Qin Yin and stabbed her long sword at her opponent. It was a man dressed in black. Under the moonlight, his face was very handsome, so beautiful that he didn't seem like a real man. Lin Muyu's sword was fast and ruthless, and it was imbued with the power of her martial soul. The man sneered without the slightest fear. His smile seemed to be mocking her. With a ding, the dragon spirit sword was forcibly knocked away. Lin Muyu didn't even see this person attack. How fast is this sword technique? Whoosh! His sword whistled through the air as fast as lightning. Heavens! Lin Muyu had never seen such a fast sword before. The wall of the gourd only rose halfway before it was pierced. Her shoulder went numb, and her battle armor was already pierced through. Blood flowed out. At the same time, the wall of the gourd enveloped her body. He raised his sword and pounced forward. Wind sword art. Wind symbol art. Ding ding ding. 3 sparks blossomed in the night, and Lin Muyu's 3 swift attacks were all blocked. Her opponent still had a mocking smile on his face, and he thrust his long sword forward like a shooting star in the night. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised her sword to block, but just as the dragon spirit sword came into contact with her opponent's long sword, an invisible suction force seemed to be emitting from her opponent's sword, pulling the dragon spirit sword downwards. However, her opponent's sword still pierced the wall of the gourd. Pooh! The blade of the sword pierced through the wall of the gourd, leaving another wound on Lin Muyu's left arm. At this time, Qin Yin also took out her purple ing sword and swung it from the right, a sword ray imbued with the light of the god-binding chains. Finally, the cold-faced assassin's expression flickered. God-binding chains? With a clever twist of his body, he quickly dodged Qin Yin's attack and swung his sword back. The blade of the sword was like a venomous snake as it struck Qin Yin's wrist. In the next moment, blood flowed down her snow-white wrist, and Qin Yin's right arm drooped at her side. She had already lost the ability to fight. To be able to defeat Qin Yin in one move, just how strong was this person? Buzz buzz. Flames lingered around the long sword as Lin Muyu used fire to control the sword. The dragon spirit sword carried an unstoppable force as it flew out. But at this time her opponent took a few steps back. Gritting his teeth, a black aura encircled the assassin's arm, and with a shout, he swung his sword through the air. Bang! Flames soared into the sky, and the dragon spirit sword spiraled in the air and landed on the ground, stabbing into the rock with a clang. Lin Muyu secretly complained in his heart. Ever since he became a member of the royal guard, he had never suffered such a loss when he split open the dragon flame spiral break with one sword. He raised his right arm lightly, and the 7 planets' profound energy madly surged into his body. His body was surrounded by a golden light, and the power of the gourd had been raised to its peak. Lin Muyu was very clear that no matter who this assassin was, if he didn't die today, then it would be her and Qin Yin. Chapter 229. Silhouettes of people, livestock, flowers, plants, and trees emerged from the surrounding wilderness and rose into the sky. Like a star field, they frantically surged towards Lin Muyu's body. This was the place where all living beings once lived. Lin Muyu seemed to have instantly gathered all the remaining life force on this piece of land and punched out with her left fist, which carried the boundless energy. 3 luminaries all calamity. This majestic attack was definitely not something to be underestimated. The disdain in the assassin's eyes disappeared as well. Sweeping his long sword horizontally, his dark battle aura frantically poured into the long sword. He chuckled and said, "I didn't expect that there would actually be someone in the future who had mastered such a mysterious martial art. However, it is truly a pity that you are going to die here today. with a shout as the saying goes, the skilled are bold. This assassin actually slashed out with his sword that was filled with dark battle aura. Was he trying to destroy the third luminary's profound energy with a single slash? Lin Muyu's entire body trembled as she exerted all her strength to gather her battle aura. Milky white battle aura lingered around her body, forming a clear contrast with the mysterious assassin's dark battle aura. Bang! The earth trembled and the surrounding air seemed to have frozen in an instant. A few seconds later, the air suddenly split open and after an explosive sound, the power of the three luminaries' all-calamity instantly collapsed. However, the assassin's sword aura cut through the profound energy and went straight for Lin Muyu's left arm. Was he trying to cut off one of Lin Muyu's arms? Fortunately, Lin Muyu's reaction was extremely agile as she brazenly moved with the star steps. A loud sound rang out behind her as the long sword slashed onto the ground, causing countless gravel to fly out. The assassin let out a cry of surprise as he probably did not expect that Lin Muyu would be able to dodge this attack. However, his figure was extremely fast as he swiftly closed in on her like a phantom. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, he slashed out 3 times consecutively, forcefully pushing away Lin Muyu's dragon spirit sword once again. P.F. There was a piercing pain as blood splattered from Lin Muyu's left wrist. Furthermore, it was not as simple as an injury, but the tendons of her hand had been cut off by the assassin. Her battle boots rolled away as Lin Muyu retreated in a sorry state. Fresh blood dripped down from her left hand. Not far away, Qi Nin held onto her right arm as her beautiful eyes were filled with despair and sorrow. You. Lin Muyu did not speak as she quickly retreated with the sword in her right hand. Her beautiful eyes were filled with despair and sorrow. You. Dark Do Qi circulated on the sword. The face of the swordsman assassin was filled with a faint smile as he said, "Brat, your left hand is already crippled. Why don't you obediently accept your death and return the sacred tool to me?" Sacred artifact? What sacred artifact? Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. Stop pretending. The assassin launched himself at Lin Muyu. His long sword transformed into specks of starlight in the air as he slashed at Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu had no choice but to reform her battle armor and the walls of her gourd. However, the defenses of the newly formed gourd walls were very weak, and they shattered in an instant. Lin Muyu was stabbed in the chest again, and she fell to the ground in a sorry state. Hua! Above her head, the assassin's aura surged. He suddenly reached out and grabbed the iron ruler on Lin Muyu's back. Could it be that his real target is this iron ruler? Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. She activated the fallen star step in the air and lightly stepped on the ground with her left foot, creating a ripple of starlight. Her nimble body spun in an arc in the air, dodging the opponent's sharp claws. Her boots landed on the arm of the assassin, and with the help of the rebound she slid more than 10 meters away. She lowered her body slightly to protect the ruler. This was an opportunity. However, his left hand could only hang down and he could no longer use his strength. The pain of his tendons being cut almost suffocated him, but he did not need to be weak at this time. Weakness would only bring death. He had to be strong and bear everything. Hey, you are really good, but unfortunately you still have to die. The assassin walked towards Lin Muyu step by step. Suddenly, his body flickered as he shot towards Lin Muyu like a bolt of lightning. His sword swayed in the air, and the angle and speed of the sword completely exceeded Lin Muyu's ability to react. With a poochie sound, a flower of blood bloomed on Lin Muyu's shoulder. Moreover, the assassin did not pull his sword out after stabbing into her shoulder. Instead, he used the momentum to press Lin Muyu's body down, and a large hand once again reached for Lin Muyu's back. He wanted the ruler again. Lin Muyu endured the pain on her shoulder. Her right hand that was holding the dragon spirit sword suddenly flipped, and blood-red Xian energy circulated. Throw caution to the wind, 4th star. The space quickly distorted and the ghost god constellation danced around. The assassin's heart was only on the ruler. Just as his palm was about to touch the ruler, his abdomen suddenly suffered a blow from the 4th star. The dark Do Qi shattered into energy forms and circled around. Finally, the attack was effective. The assassin did not get the ruler but flew back a few meters and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Bastard, you dare to injure me? The assassin wiped the corner of his mouth and holding the sword he sneered, I will grant you another way to die. Lin Muyu's heart was in turmoil. What kind of person was this? He actually took the power of the 4th star head-on and was only lightly injured? Furthermore, from the start to the end, Lin Muyu did not see this person summon his martial spirit. Could it be that he was born without a martial spirit? Moreover, his blood-red eyes seemed to contain a demonic power that was unfathomable. Shio. The sword pierced through the air and Lin Muyu subconsciously blocked it. However, the opponent's speed was too fast. With a flick of the blade, the dragon spirit sword was easily swung away. His movement speed suddenly increased, and his knee landed heavily on Lin Muyu's abdomen. A suffocating feeling came over, and Lin Muyu instantly lost the ability to fight. His right arm suddenly turned cold and then a scorching power surged into it. Intense pain came and his heart instantly turned to ashes. It's over, the tendons in his right arm were also broken. Even holding the sword was very difficult. Instantly, despair and helplessness filled the entire Yi. 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor, do you still want to watch the show? Lin Muyu shouted in the Yi. If I die, your primordial spirit will also have no place to reside. Let's see how you die. However, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed in the Yi. You weak as a chicken, you finally thought of me at this time? But don't worry, once you're dead, I'll immediately go out and subdue this expert in front of me. To be honest, he's much stronger than you. His body is also more suitable for me than yours. It was over. It seemed like the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor was not going to help. Furthermore, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor did not have a real body. Could the power of a ghost really suppress this mysterious expert in front of him? Give it to me. The Iron Ruler had already been grabbed by the assassin. With a forceful pull, it was forcibly pulled out from Lin Muyu's back. Haha, the demonic weapon is finally in my hands. Haha, I, Qinyun, am the greatest hero of the celestial race, haha. He laughed maniacally. Suddenly, he lowered his head and looked at Lin Muyu, as if he was looking at a dying prey. He slowly raised the Iron Ruler. Instantly, the Iron Ruler glowed brightly. The killer laughed heartily. Seeing that you've helped me find the demon weapon and sacred weapon, I'll grant you a quick death. Lin Muyu's arms were trembling and he could not muster any strength. He lowered his hand to control the dragon's spiritual sword with fire, but he did not even have 10% of his strength left. What threat could my son pose to this mysterious expert? He raised his head. Blood flowed down his forehead and into his eyes, but his gaze was more determined. He said lightly, "Come." The mysterious assassin sneered and the Iron Ruler quickly fell. Wah! At this moment, suddenly, a golden light bloomed on Lin Muyu's forehead. It was the 7th level ability of the Green Gourd Martial Soul, Light of Dawn. Under the bright light, the mysterious expert's eyes were immediately pierced with extreme pain. He hurriedly closed his eyes and roared, "Despicable brat, I will kill you." The Iron Ruler fell with the wind, but it could not hit him. Lin Muyu had already controlled the dragon spirit sword to return to its sheath. He ran to Qin Yin's side and bent down. "Xiaoyin, get on my back, quickly." One of Qin Yin's arms was almost crippled. She hurriedly hugged him with the other hand. Falling star steps, run. As she ran, Lin Muyu did not dare to look back. However, she had already activated the spirit pulse technique. Although her arms were crippled, the strength in her legs was still there. Not far away, Qin Yin's pet, the golden crag swift wolf, was trembling in the bushes. From the beginning to the end, it did not dare to fight against this mysterious expert. It was as if it was naturally restrained. Behind her, a powerful aura was closing in on her again. Lin Muyu groaned inwardly. She had expended too much of her battle energy, and she was carrying Qin Yin on her back. Her falling star steps movement speed was less than half of what it was at its peak, and she was about to be caught up. "Brother Yu," Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she said, "Xiaoyin can't be a burden to you anymore. Remember to tell father that Xiaoyin loves him." "What nonsense are you talking about, silly girl?" Lin Muyu scolded, "Shut up and hold me tight." But Qin Yin's arms were slowly loosening. Her tears quickly wetted Lin Muyu's collar. She leaned her face on Lin Muyu's neck and cried, You have to live. Go back and help me take care of father. If Qin Lei and Qin Yan can't take on the responsibility, then let father make you the heir." "Silly girl." Lin Muyu was secretly anxious. She stopped running and quickly turned around to look at the mysterious assassin who was rushing over like lightning. Just as his long sword was about to pierce into her heart, Lin Muyu suddenly focused all of her spiritual perception on one point and the spirit pulse technique instantly erupted. Soul shock. Wang, the mysterious assassin instantly froze in place. Although it was very short, it gave Lin Muyu some opportunity. She raised her leg and kicked over without hesitation. True dragon essence fire lingered around her boots as she directly attacked the opponent's Qi Si. No matter who he was, his dark battle energy originated from his chi. Lin Muyu had already seen this very clearly. Bang! Was a heavy blow. Unfortunately, the assassin's battle armor was very sturdy. This kick couldn't cripple his chi. Lin Muyu pulled away and walked away shouting, "Shaoyin, hold me tight. Don't give up until the last moment." Goddamn bastard. The assassin woke up from the soul shock. In the short span of 3 seconds, he felt that he had suffered the greatest humiliation since his birth. He jumped up with the iron ruler in his hand. Lin Muyu didn't even look back. She locked onto the opponent's position with the spirit pulse technique and suddenly swayed. Under the technique of the sword control technique, the demonic noise saber quickly flew out and disappeared in the air. What is this? The assassin looked at the sky in shock. In the next moment, a kacha sound rang out and a huge wound was cut open on his leg. The wound was so deep that bone could be seen. If Lin Muyu's battle energy was a little stronger, she might have been able to cut off his entire leg. Bastard. In a rage, the assassin threw the iron ruler out with extreme speed. Chapter 230. Carrying Qin on her back, Lin Muyu naturally couldn't let Qin take the hit. Her body was frail, but Lin Muyu herself had tempered her skin and bones. She turned around and gathered her battle armor in front of her chest. Bang! The iron ruler was sent flying, but Lin Muyu coughed up a mouthful of blood. 2 of her ribs were broken, and the pain was excruciating. She didn't have time to think about it. She activated her falling star steps and dashed off into the distance with Qin on her back. One of the assassin's legs had been crippled. This was Lin Muyu's only hope. The demonic noise saber flew back into its sheath. After sprinting for close to 2 hours, Lin Muyu's legs started to feel weak. What's worse was that her arms were already covered in blood. It was a frightening sight. Lin Muyu even felt that her mind was a little blank, as if she would faint at any time. "Shaoyin, I'm afraid I can't hold on much longer," he said weakly. Tears welled up in Qinyan's eyes. She nodded and said softly, We're almost at the river. Let's stop. That person shouldn't be chasing us anymore. You have to heal your wounds." Lin Muyu fell to the ground, taking Qin with her. At that moment, the Goldrock Swift Wolf emerged from the forest, wagging its tail and blinking at Qin. Qin couldn't blame it. She could sense the Goldrock Swift Wolf's fear of that mysterious assassin. It was as if it was innate. Taking out a bunch of medicine bottles from her spatial pouch, Lin Muyu looked through them carefully. "This is muscle replenishing powder. It can prolong the tendons in my arms so I won't become a cripple in the future. Hurry up and apply it on my wounds. Then use recovery medicine and gold wound medicine. Don't miss anything. Shaoyin, your injuries aren't light either. Hurry up and apply the medicine. Got it? I'll heal you first." Qin quickly applied the medicine to Lin Muyu. When she saw the deep cut on Lin Muyu's wrist, she almost broke down. She cried as she applied the medicine. Lin Muyu was lying tiredly under a withered pine tree. After applying the muscle replenishing powder, her right arm seemed to have regained some strength. She gently lifted it and placed it on Qinyan's shoulder. She smiled and said, "Don't cry. We're already very lucky that we're not dead." "Yes." Qin quietly wiped away her tears and said, "Big brother, who exactly is that person? Why is he so strong? That kind of terrifying power? It's even more tyrannical than a saint." "Yes, and his swordsmanship is also superb." Lin Muyu closed her eyes and said, "His swordsmanship is completely different from the inherited swordsmanship of the Empire. I really can't understand it. Sai, I'm the winner of the sword duel tournament, but my swordsmanship is nothing compared to his. And this person, he didn't even use his martial soul. The characteristics of his battle chi are also different from ours. It's a kind of dark and evil battle chi. It's pervasive and very domineering." "Yes." Qin bandaged his wounds. Seeing that his sleeves were full of blood, her tears fell again. "This person should be from a legendary foreign race. He's a type of person that hasn't been recorded in our history books. That iron ruler, he said it was a sacred weapon and also a demonic weapon. What exactly is it?" "I don't know either. Big brother, can you feel the power from the iron ruler?" "Yes, it's a very vigorous power. I can even feel that the iron ruler contains what?" Qin asked. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, "A very vigorous righteousness. But if it's vigorous righteousness, how can it be called a demonic weapon?" And it's something that kind of person wants? It must be a murder weapon. Yes. At this time on the other side of the mountain range, a strange scene was happening. Under a towering tree, the handsome man's eyes were blood red. Dark dough chi quietly flowed all over his body. His body was spinning upside down in the air. His posture looked very strange. The wound on his right leg was very frightening. His entire leg looked like it had been sliced in half. However, he was using a very strange iron ruler to press against the wound. Threads of green light surged out from the iron ruler to nourish the wound. Immediately, one could see that the wound was recovering and healing at a rapid pace. This scene was extremely strange. Gee! He opened his eyes and let out a breath of turbid air. He said to himself, there's actually such a strong practitioner in the human world. Goddamn, what's with that kid's flying knife? It can actually be seen by my demonic eyes. It's really strange. The profound spirit ruler is indeed worthy of being one of the 9 great Buddhist weapons. This mighty righteousness can really speed up the healing of injuries. After my injuries are healed, I'll go and kill that kid to prevent future troubles. Lin Muyu and Qin Yi naturally didn't know that danger was approaching. Lin Muyu relied on the best quality elixirs and the recovery of the gourd to quickly heal his injuries. But she didn't expect that the opponent's injury would heal even faster. In the distance, the cool breeze blew the smell of the river. They were less than a mile away from Dao River. Qin Yi didn't dare to light a fire. She ate some dry rations and drank some water with Lin Muyu. The night wind was cold. Lin Muyu's injuries hadn't healed yet, so he only knew how to shiver. Qin Yin's heart ached so much that her tears were about to fall. She hugged him and used her own body temperature to keep him warm. Lin Muyu didn't dare to slack off. She continued to extend her spiritual pulse technique. This assassin was able to quietly approach her. This meant that he had the ability to hide his aura. This kind of opponent was simply too terrifying. However, perhaps because of his injuries, the ability to hide his aura wasn't 100%. 2 hours later, Lin Muyu suddenly opened her eyes. Her hands had a trace of strength. She said, Xiaoyin, he's here again. Qin Yin was shocked. What? What should we do? Go to Dao River. What do you want to do? Nothing much. Lin Muyu stood up. Her hands were still hanging at her sides. She faintly smiled, but we can't just die like this. Only death awaits us here. But if we seek outside help, perhaps we will have a sliver of a chance. You want to use the strength of the frost-armored dragons at the bottom of the river? What else? Let's go. Yes. Even though Qin Yin didn't want to face the densely packed frost-armored dragons, she was even more unwilling to face the approaching death god. That mysterious assassin might be even more frightening than the frost-armored dragons. The two quickly set off. They had lost their horses, so they could only walk. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's legs weren't injured, so her speed wasn't too affected. However, the tendons in her arms had been cut off. Even though she had applied the muscle-replenishing powder, she was still powerless. The tendons in her arms were slowly regenerating. If she used too much force at this time, she would definitely snap them off again. At that time, it would be even more troublesome. But if that person really chased after them, she might not be able to escape without using her arms. The river water was fresh and clear. Under the moonlight, the ripples in the distance were clear and crystalline. But who would know that countless frost-armored dragons were hidden under the beautiful ripples? Under the effect of the spiritual pulse technique, that person was getting closer and closer. Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the dragon spirit sword. She didn't dare to use too much force. She slowly cut off a section of her blood-stained sleeve and threw it into the river. Soon, those frost-armored dragons would be able to smell the blood and flock over. Hopefully, those frost-armored dragons would be of some help. Xiaoyin, go hide on that tree. Lin Muyu pointed to a huge pine tree in the distance. No. Qin Yin slowly shook her head. Her eyes were clear. She smiled and said, Big brother, you Xiaoyin isn't useless. Let me protect you this time, okay? She had already made up her mind. The power of the golden god binding chains appeared around her body. Lin Muyu could only smile bitterly and say, all right then. If we can't escape together, then we will be buried in the river together. Qin Yin smiled and said, I didn't think that my final ending would be like this. I originally thought that I would be able to ascend to the throne. That's fine too. Maybe this kind of death will save me a lot of pain. Moreover, I will be together with Big Brother Yu. Lin Muyu nodded and said, he's here. Lure him to the riverside. Okay. Not far away, the assassin walked over with a long sword in one hand and an iron ruler in the other. He was limping. After a series of bitter battles, he had taken a blow from the fourth element and was slashed by the demonic noise saber. His strength had been reduced to less than 40%. This was the best opportunity for Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. Xiaoyin used the 7-string jade zither? Lin Muyu smiled and said. Qin Yin quickly took out her zither from her space bag. She wrapped the zither in a dense layer of fighting aura. Golden god binding chains wrapped around the princess like ribbons. Dang! The sound of the zither rang out, and a golden shockwave immediately pounced toward the assassin in the distance. He quickly turned around and dodged the attack. The short tree behind him was instantly cut into two. Ha! The assassin sneered and suddenly rushed over. He stomped on the ground and rolled in the air to get close to Qin Yin's position. However, before his sword could land, a gourd vine suddenly broke out from the ground and wrapped around his feet. It forcefully pulled him down. Demonic noise saber. Lin Muyu's body flashed and the demonic noise saber whizzed out. However, the assassin's reaction was even faster. He exerted force on his feet and shattered the gourd. He closed his eyes in the air and suddenly smashed the iron ruler. Bang! The demonic noise saber was sent flying. As expected of a peerless expert, he quickly found the weakness of the demonic noise saber. He relied on his hearing and not his eyes. Hand over your life. The sword fell down from the sky and directly slashed at Qin Yin's head. Lin Muyu suddenly pressed her palm on Qin Yin's back and smiled, "Goodbye, Xiaoyin." Bang! A soft vibration came over and made Qin Yin fall forward for dozens of meters. She avoided the fatal sword. Lin Muyu looked up at the powerful enemy in the sky. She raised her palm and the gourd vine flew out. It wrapped around the assassin's arm and pulled him toward her. At the same time, her body leaned back and directly fell into the rice river. The river water was thoroughly cold. Moreover, the spiritual power surged and a dense evil aura quickly swam over. Chapter 231. You want to drag me into the water? Dream on. The assassin swept a palm through the air, instantly shattering the gourd vines that had bound his arm and neck. However, before he had a chance to gloat over his victory, a sharp pain suddenly erupted from his ankle. A metal spear that was emanating dense frost energy had pierced through the wound on his leg. It was none other than Lin Muyu's pear blossom spear. Slap slap. A pair of flexible gourd vines instantly wrapped themselves around the pear blossom spear, forcibly dragging the assassin into the river. Ice-cold river water poured directly into his mouth, eyes, and ears, and Lin Muyu let loose a low roar as she grabbed onto the gourd vines with one hand, quickly dragging the assassin into the river. You're courting death. The assassin's killing intent became even more ferocious in the river, and he swam directly toward Lin Muyu before abruptly smashing his iron ruler into her shoulder. A loud crack rang out, and Lin Muyu's shoulder blade was most likely broken. Disregarding the pain, she injected all of her battle chi into her martial soul, and countless threads of gourd vines bound herself and the assassin together. Even if she were to die, she was going to drag him down with her. She couldn't allow this assassin to kill Qin Yin. In the water, the domineering power of the dark battle chi had been significantly weakened, and the gourd vines had completely gained the upper hand. Even so, Lin Muyu was still at a complete disadvantage. The assassin gently spread open his palm, and his battle chi erupted forth with astonishing force, instantly creating a series of explosive shockwaves in the river. Lin Muyu bore the brunt of the attack, and her clothes were completely shredded while her skin was stained with blood. He held onto his opponent with all his might with his left arm, and his right hand gripped onto the dragon spirit sword as he slashed out from the side. The river water was quickly dyed red. You bastard! The assassin cursed with rage, but the river water quickly flowed into his mouth, preventing him from doing so. As such, he could only swing his fists through the air, striking Lin Muyu's battle armor and body over and over again. Slap. After a heavy blow, Lin Muyu's left arm was almost numb. The bones in her arm had been completely shattered. This assassin's strength was full of destruction. It was simply not a strength that a human could possess. He was so excited that he actually pounced forward and bit Lin Muyu's shoulder, forcibly tearing off a piece of flesh. Blood flowed and the river water became even more turbid. At this moment, a black shadow had already swam over, following the scent of fresh blood. Lin Muyu's dying consciousness allowed him to dodge. The gourd vines wrapped around his body and rapidly sank downwards. Immediately, the frost-armored horn dragon's four blade-like arms swept across the assassin's body. Dang dang dang, there was the sound of metal colliding with stone. The sharp knife arm could not break through the assassin's protective upstanding chi. The assassin raised his sword-like eyebrows and cursed again, "Bastard!" Then he punched out. The river water instantly surged, and the 2,100-year-old frost-armored horned dragon instantly disintegrated into a pile of minced meat. However, after killing one frost-armored horned dragon, even more frost-armored horned dragons were attracted to him. Swarms of horned dragons charged at him from all directions. They opened their bloody mouths and bit the assassin's arms, legs, abdomen, and head, as if they were going to tear him apart in an instant. Lin Muyu took advantage of this opportunity to use the gourd vines to protect herself. After all, the frost-armored horned dragons were not vegetarians, so they would not directly attack the gourd vines. How infuriating! An angry roar burst forth from the river water. The assassin's entire body was covered in blood chi. Dark fighting aura swirled around him like a magical illusion, forcefully shattering the bodies of 7 to 8 frost-armored horned dragons. Half the river water was dyed red just like that. Moreover, the huge waves created by this attack were spreading in all directions. This kind of power that could overturn rivers and seas was clearly not something that a human could possess. However, the assassin's complexion was getting worse and worse. He swung his iron ruler and smashed the head of a frost-armored horned dragon. At the same time, his leg was bitten by a 3,700-year-old frost-armored horned dragon. A large chunk of flesh was torn off by another frost-armored horned dragon. Another horned dragon was biting his left arm, refusing to let go no matter how hard he struggled. This was the ferocity of a horned dragon. "Let go." The assassin roared and raised his iron ruler. With one strike, the horned dragon's skull was smashed. However, the horned dragon still refused to let go. With another strike, the horned dragon's entire brain was splattered. Finally, the assassin slowly let go. However, at the same time, the assassin's waist was bitten again. A large chunk of flesh was torn off, and his intestines could be seen flowing into the river water. The battle was simply too tragic. Just at this moment, there was a sharp cry and the river water rose into the sky. A huge creature rushed out from the depths of the river. It was a group of frost-armored horned dragons with 14 golden patterns on their heads. They were 14,000 years old ancient beasts. This 10,000-year-old horned dragon opened its mouth and bit down on the assassin's head, grinding and chewing with its sharp teeth. The assassin was still roaring in rage. He swung his iron ruler and smashed it on the head of the 10,000-year-old horned dragon, shattering its scales inch by inch. He was so fierce that he seemed to have turned into a wild beast. But in the end he was still too weak. His legs were quickly torn apart and devoured by the horned dragons. A cracking sound came from his head as his skull exploded. Pooh! The 10,000-year-old horned dragon bit off the assassin's head and chewed with great force. Its brown eyes were filled with satisfaction. Lin Muyu saw this and swam towards the shore. A gourd vine shot out and wrapped around the iron ruler. This thing could shatter the scales of a 10,000-year-old dragon serpent. It was definitely a good treasure. At the same time, the assassin's body shattered into pieces after his death, leaving behind a black demonic bead that fell into the depths of the river. That demonic bead was filled with spiritual energy. Lin Muyu naturally would not let go of such a great opportunity. A gourd leaf quickly wrapped around the black demonic bead and dragged it towards Lin Muyu with the help of the gourd vine. However, the price of greed was extremely heavy. In that instant, the 14,000-year-old horned dragon had already rushed over. It opened its bloody mouth and bit down on Lin Muyu's left arm. But Lin Muyu did not feel any pain. Her left arm had long been crippled. More and more horned dragons rushed over, forming a dense black mass. They were like giant pythons that were spitting out their tongues. Their eyes were filled with greed and it was extremely frightening. No matter how fiercely she struggled, she could not break free from the horned dragon's giant mouth. At this time, Qin Yin's voice came from the shore. "I'm here to save you. No, I cannot let Qin Yin be in danger." At this moment, Lin Muyu did not hesitate. He raised his hand and swung the dragon spirit sword. With a flash, his entire left arm was sent flying. His eyes were filled with blood as he retreated while spitting out blood. But he was still laughing sinisterly at the group of frost-armored horned dragons. "F***ck your ancestors, don't you just want to eat me? At most I'll feed you an arm." Fresh blood flowed and a bone-chilling pain came from his left arm. Lin Muyu rushed ashore in a sorry state. The gourd vines behind him suddenly spread out to form a wall of green vines, forcefully blocking the charge of the horned dragons. Holding the long sword, his entire body was covered in blood. He shouted at Qin Yin in a frightening manner. "Stupid girl, what's there to save? Run for your lives." He opened his right hand and grasped the dragon spirit sword, iron ruler and demonic bead. Then he ran with Qin Yin with all his might. On the other side, the golden crag swift wolf followed them with its tail between its legs. Lin Muyu glanced at it and said indifferently, "Evil creature, what use do I have for you?" Looking at Lin Muyu's severed arm, Qin Yin trembled in fear. Tears flowed from her eyes. "Big brother, your arm, your arm." Lin Muyu's body was also in pain, but his heart was even more pained. What did losing an arm mean to a martial artist? Perhaps after losing an arm, he would only have about 60% of his original strength. In this way, it seemed like he didn't even have the qualifications to be ranked among the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning generals. After madly running for several miles, they left the Daojiang River. This Daojiang River didn't seem like a mother river at all. For Lin Muyu and Qin Yin, this place was like purgatory. Seeing Lin Muyu's injuries, Qin Yin couldn't stop crying. What else could she do besides cry? That arm was already gone. "Rest for a bit, I can't run anymore." Lin Muyu's body trembled. The pain from his severed arm almost made him faint. Trembling, he took out a bottle of healing medicine and said to Qin Yin, "Xiao Yin, help me apply medicine." Qin Yin's tears blurred her vision. She nodded and clutched the medicine bottle, her body trembling slightly. At this moment, the voice of the seven luminaries demon emperor came from the depths of his Yi. "Lin Ruoji, hey Lin Ruoji." Although he was in a sorry state, he couldn't let go of his pride. Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows and said, "Demon, who are you calling Lin Ruoji?" "I'm talking about you. You're Lin Ruoji. A group of worms at the bottom of the river made you lose your arm and run for your life. Do you think you're a lizard?" "Aha, Lin Ruoji, Lin Ruoji." Motherf * curse 7 luminaries demon emperor. Lin Muyu started cursing. The 7 luminaries demon emperor seemed to have never been so happy before. He cackled, "Lin Ruoji, you're really pitiful. In order to protect Her Highness, you ended up in such a sorry state. Do you think Her Highness will marry you? She's just using you. Silly boy Lin Ruoji, haha. If you say one more word about Lin Ruoji, I'll take you down with me." Lin Muyu said with a murderous intent. The 7 luminaries demon emperor knew that this kid was a madman. He didn't dare to provoke him anymore. He only said, "That, Brother Ruoji, I only have one question for you. Do you still want to be a healthy person? Do you want your left arm?" "How am I not healthy?" "You're already an incomplete man. Get lost, 7 luminaries demon emperor. You son of a b*t. #it. Lin Muyu cursed. He realized that the pain in his body seemed to have lessened after venting his anger. Who was the 7 brilliance demon monarch? He was the strongest person in history. He did not hold a grudge against Qin Nan. He said with a smile, "Brother Weak, you should talk to me nicely if you want your arm back. I might even be able to help you." "You help me? What are you after?" "You, Lin Ruoji, are a substitute for me, the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Before I find a new body, I don't want you to become useless. Besides, if I succeed in taking over your body one day, this body will be mine. I don't want to be an incomplete man." ****. Lin Muyu said calmly, "My arm has already been eaten by the horned dragon. Tell me, how can I get my left arm back?" "Idiot, don't you know that you're sitting on a mountain of treasures?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor mocked. "You're indeed a pitiful weakling. Look at the metal ruler in your hand. Can you feel the spiritual energy and rebirth energy within it? Let me tell you, this iron ruler is a good treasure. Refine it and rely on its rebirth power to reconstruct your body. Also, that black bead is also a good thing. Refine and absorb it as well to replenish the lost strength of your arm. Perhaps you can even recover 80 to 90% of your lost cultivation." "Really? Nonsense. Can't you feel the energy within the metal ruler? How are you going to thank me for helping you so much? Tell me, how do you want me to thank you? You scolded me for so long just now, but I didn't even reply. Now you're going to repay me by scolding you, but you can't even reply. I can scold you for as long as I want. What do you think?" Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. "Then scold me all you want." "Good, you're a straightforward person indeed." The 7 luminaries demon emperor was a straightforward person. He ignored the fact that Lin Muyu needed to concentrate on refining the metal ruler and started scolding her in Tianjin dialect. "Look at you, dog food. You're really unlikable. Do you have Yang Qiu in your head? After scolding her for a while, he continued scolding her in Hunan dialect for another 20 minutes before switching to Shanghai dialect for half an hour. In the end, Lin Muyu spent 5 hours refining the metal ruler while the 7 luminaries demon emperor spent 5 hours scolding her. Finally he was tired and went to rest in the depths of his Yi. Lin Muyu broke out in cold sweat. Refining the metal ruler had reached a critical juncture. There was no room for error. Chapter 232. An endless stream of life energy flowed from the iron ruler into Lin Muyu's body. The iron ruler trembled continuously as the metal on its surface melted away, revealing the green substance within. Streaks of golden light flowed within. This golden light was the righteous energy that Lin Muyu had sensed. This iron ruler was definitely not as simple and unadorned as it appeared to be. It was a mysterious treasure that was unknown to the world. Just as the iron ruler was completely refined, streaks of ancient runes slowly rose up and circled around Lin Muyu's body. It was so beautiful that Qin Yin, who was standing outside the crafting cauldron, widened her eyes in shock. Lin Muyu's body was being reconstructed. The iron ruler's energy automatically sought out the wounds on his body and healed them. At first, the recovery energy was like a trickle that healed the sword wounds on Lin Muyu's shoulder and chest. But when this energy flowed to the stump of his arm, it suddenly surged in like a raging river. Streaks of golden ancient runes circled around the stump of his arm and quickly formed an arm of energy. As Lin Muyu's blood flowed into the stump of his arm, the reconstruction process became visible to the naked eye. Wung, the crafting cauldron trembled violently. Lin Muyu endured great pain as his entire left arm gradually regained feeling. The burning sensation was almost enough to swallow his spirit sense. Even with his strong spirit sense, he couldn't help but let out a miserable howl as he knelt on the ground. His right arm was propped up on the ground while his left arm was completely golden. His flesh and veins were being reconstructed at a visible rate. His entire body was trembling as his battle energy was raised to the extreme, forming a milky white wave of energy that struck the surroundings. Qin Yin let out a soft cry and hastily summoned the god-binding chains in front of her to defend against Lin Muyu's attack. But what Qin Yin didn't expect was that Lin Muyu's current strength seemed to be even stronger than before. She felt as if she couldn't withstand Lin Muyu's attack. As for the gold crag swift wolf, it was hiding somewhere with its tail between its legs. After an unknown period of time, the entire left arm had completely regrown. However, the surface of the left arm was glowing with a faint golden light and was surrounded by steam. Lin Muyu channeled her qi into the left arm and found that her qi was like a drop of water falling into the roots of a tree. It was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood with a cup of water. The left arm's search for power was far more than that. It seemed that the left arm was also yearning for the injection of qi. Ugh ugh ugh. Lin Muyu howled in pain. Her entire left arm was numb and painful. At this time Lulu, who was in Yi, flew out and said, "Brother, the 7 luminaries demon emperor asked you to refine the pearl left behind by the assassin's primordial spirit. Perhaps it can make up for the strength needed for your left arm." Lin Muyu hurriedly took out the pearl that was filled with power. The 6th layer of the heavenly fire inside the treasure refining cauldron flew up and quickly melted the pearl. Suddenly, a vast amount of dark qi flowed everywhere inside the treasure refining cauldron. "No, this dark qi conflicts with my physique." Lin Muyu frowned. "It doesn't matter." Lulu blinked her eyes and said, "This dark fighting energy and the light fighting energy humans have come from the same source. Using the heavenly fire to refine it can be converted into fighting energy that Big Brother can absorb." After refining it for nearly half an hour, the dark qi slowly turned white. As if it had a mind of its own, it flowed into her left arm. It surged endlessly as if a whole river of power was flowing into her left arm. Lin Muyu suddenly raised his head and let out a sigh of relief. At this moment his left arm was truly reborn. When the entire pearl had been refined and absorbed, the light around his left arm slowly dissipated. It was no different from his original arm. Only Lin Muyu himself knew the real difference. The power contained in this arm shocked even him. He put away the treasure refining cauldron. The clothes on his upper body had already been torn off. He had no choice but to take out a set of gold star sparring master armor from the holy temple from his cosmos sack and put it on. Otherwise, it would be inappropriate for him to eat his upper body in front of the princess. Moreover, they were deep in the mountains. Even if he wore the holy temple armor, it would not matter. There was no need to hide here. The people from the House of Chivalry would not be able to reach here before they were killed by the spiritual beasts. Looking at Lin Muyu's reconstructed body, Qin Yin was wild with joy. Brother Yu, your arm, is it really fine? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. The Iron Ruler contained a very strong life force. I refined it, so the life force in the Iron Ruler and the blood in my body reconstructed this arm. How magical! There were still traces of tears on Qin Yin's face, but she was in high spirits. She held Lin Muyu's new left arm and gently touched it. The skin, pores and veins were no different from an ordinary person, just stronger. Will this arm be even stronger? Qin Yin blinked and said, Xiaoyin can feel that your strength has increased a lot. Is that so? Lin Muyu smiled and tried to cross his left arm. He suddenly let out a low roar and circulated his fighting energy. However, just as he was circulating his energy, he felt a force in his left arm that seemed to be waiting for him to awaken. He used his fighting energy to activate it. The next moment, a shocking scene happened. Bang! Golden light shone brightly, and the shape of a golden true dragon circled around his left arm, as if protecting this arm. It was like a shield, but the strength of its strength was clearly not something an ordinary shield could compare to. Is this the power of the Iron Ruler? Lin Muyu asked in shock. Qin Yin smiled faintly. It shouldn't be just the Iron Ruler. The assassin said that this Iron Ruler is a sacred weapon, a demonic weapon. Congratulations, Brother Yu. It seems that your true dragon bloodline has already merged with the power of the sacred weapon. That's why you obtained this. Oh, I should call it the true dragon arm, right? Maybe that's really the case. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. It's a blessing in disguise. I thought that after losing my left arm, my cultivation would be ruined. I didn't expect to obtain an even stronger left arm. How are your injuries now? More than half healed. Lin Muyu walked forward and looked at Qin Yin's shoulder. It was covered with blood. Qin Yin's injuries now seemed to be far more serious than his own. He said with distress. On the contrary, Xiao Yin's injuries are still very serious. He looked up at the sky and said, It's almost dawn. Let's go find the warhorse immediately. Otherwise, I don't know when we will reach Miu City. Fortunately, the warhorse did not go far. It only gnawed on the grass near the temple. The luggage on the horse's back was still there, but the tent was torn into pieces. However, Lin Muyu still put the tent away. It should still be able to be used after some mending. After a quick breakfast, they continued on their journey. Lin Muyu was now wearing the armor and boots of the Holy Temple. Naturally, it was even more impossible to walk on the main road. So, he continued to walk on the small path with Qin Yin. After nightfall, the tent was mended and set up again. After eating, Qin Yin went into the tent to recuperate. Lin Muyu gripped the dragon spirit sword tightly and stood guard about 3 meters away from the tent. She stood there motionless like a statue. Voila! The tent door was opened. Qin Yin poked her head out and said with a smile, You come in and rest. No need. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, I will guard outside from now on. Xiaoyin sleep. I will take a nap during the day. I will rely on you to lead the way. The appearance of this killer made Lin Muyu completely vigilant. There was actually someone in this world who could avoid the detection of the spirit pulse technique and get close to him. If he was too superstitious about the spirit pulse technique, he might lose his and Qin Yin's lives. So, it was better to stay awake at night. His attitude was more resolute, so Qin Yin did not say much. She went back into the tent and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, the wild pheasants in the dragon-seeking forest were actually chirping. Qin Yin woke up slowly. A beam of sunlight shone on her face through the gap in the tent. She stretched and opened the tent. When she looked outside, she was stunned. She saw Lin Muyu sitting on a rock with his hand on the hilt of his sword. His white cloak was scattered behind him, but his face, eyebrows and shoulders were all covered with a layer of frost. Qin Yin's heart skipped a beat. She rushed out and hugged him. Are you okay? Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. There was a strange luster in his eyes, but it disappeared in a flash. He smiled and said, I am fine. What's wrong, Xiaoyin? You are covered in frost. You scared me? Qin Yin stuck out her tongue and laughed. Haha, I am fine. Don't worry. For the next few days, Lin Muyu only had to hurry on with her journey. Along the way, she killed a few spirit beasts and fed them to the Golden Rock Swift Wolf. The Golden Rock Swift Wolf's cultivation had increased by 50 years. It seemed that raising a pet was a good idea. Lin Muyu couldn't help but start thinking about her pet. What kind of pet would be most suitable? First of all, it had to have a good bloodline. Could not be like the golden rock swift wolf. Although it was an overlord among wolves, it was still a wild wolf. It was useless against a horned dragon or a real powerhouse. Perhaps she should tame a dragon? The umbrella dragon's rank was too low. It was useless among the dragons. The dragon snake was strong, but its bloodline was not even as good as the umbrella dragon. As for the true dragon, forget it. Even if she could find it, she wouldn't be able to defeat it. Lin Muyu knew her limits very well. On the 11th day after leaving Lanyan City, they finally entered the territory of Muyu City. They could already see patrols coming and going on the official road from afar. These scouts wore the insignia of a spear on their shoulders. They were all from Muyu City. They also wore the insignia of the Empire's purple Yinhua. Xiaoyin, we are ready to enter the city. Lin Muyu smiled as he held the reins. He was wearing the Holy Temple armor. It was too heavy for the skinny horse, so he decided to let it go. Qinin rode on her warhorse and smiled. Yeah. But at this moment, a group of soldiers in the Empire's uniforms suddenly appeared in the forest behind them. All of them drew their longbows and one of them shouted, "Who are you people?" Chapter 233. There were more than 50 people in total. None of them were very strong. There was only a captain who was at the first level of the Earth realm. He was not worth mentioning. These people were the patrolling army of Muyu City. They were equivalent to the Imperial Army of Muyu City. Lanyan City had a population of 5 million and a garrison of 180,000. Muyu City had a population of 4 million and a total of 250,000 soldiers. They were even stronger than the garrison of the Imperial Army. Lin Muyu walked forward in her Holy Temple armor. She smiled and said, "Don't you recognize this outfit?" The captain took a closer look and became serious. He cupped his fists respectfully and said, "So you are from the Holy Temple. But the people from the Holy Temple do not have much interaction with our Yunzhong province. My lord, you must have something to do in Muyu City, right? Please show me your clearance document. Otherwise, I will not let you enter Muyu City." "I don't have a clearance document." Lin Muyu was startled. It seemed that Qin Jin did not mention anything about clearance documents. "Then did you come from the dragon-seeking forest?" the captain asked. "Yes, we followed the Rice River all the way here." "Inqiang?" A trace of shock flashed across the captain's face as he said, "Did you really come from Inqiang?" "Haven't." Yun Gong had already ordered a section of Dao River's dragon-seeking forest to be a forbidden hunting zone half a year ago. There are extremely terrifying demons hidden there. Did nothing happen on your way here?" Lin Muyu didn't want to talk about the countless frost-armored horned dragons in Rice River, so she said, "We're quite a distance away from Rice River. We didn't wade through the water, so we don't know what happened in Rice River. But now, I want to enter Muyu City to see Duke Yun. Can I trouble you to bring me into the city?" "See Lord Yun?" The captain was startled and said, "I have never heard of Lord Yun having any relationship with the people from the Holy Temple. My lord, if you want to see Lord Yun, you need to tell us first. Who are you in the Holy Temple? Since you are from Venus, you should be famous all over the world." "I am Lin Muyu." A group of patrolling soldiers of Muyu City was stunned. The people who were originally at war with each other put down their bows and arrows, and several cavalrymen who were riding on the horses quickly dismounted and looked at Lin Muyu respectfully. If the boy in front of them was really Lin Muyu, then they could not neglect him. After all, he was one of the 3 commanders of the Imperial Guard, the second of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, and also the adopted son of the Emperor. A slight neglect would be an unpardonable crime. The squad leader said respectfully, "Sir, are you really the champion of the sword duel tournament, the legendary wild general Lin Muyu?" "Is there anything wrong with that? Then, please forgive me for my disrespect. How will you prove yourself?" Lin Muyu was speechless. She reached for the token of the General of the South. But at this moment, suddenly, Qinin, who was behind him, lifted the cloak on top of her head. Suddenly, a stunning and beautiful face appeared in front of everyone. She raised the corner of her mouth and said with a faint smile, "Can I be the proof?" Everyone was stunned. The squad leader's throat moved a little and he said with a dry mouth, I have seen you before, you are Her Highness Yin." Qinin nodded, "Yes, so you know me. Then it will be easy." The group of people knelt down and formed a circle around her. Hundreds of cavalrymen also rushed over from the distant road. After hearing that it was Qinin, they all dismounted and knelt on both sides of the road. Lin Muyu stood next to Qin Yin. There was a sense of accomplishment. So this was the feeling of absolute power? Get up. Qin Yin smiled and raised her hand. This time I came to Muyu City in disguise because I have something to discuss with my grandfather. All of you, get on your horses and don't let anyone know. Take me into the city to see my grandfather. Yes, your highness. A Chiliarch came forward and grabbed the reins of Qin Yin's horse, saying, This general will lead the horse for your highness. However, Qin Yin smiled and said, There's no need for that. Just treat me as a member of the team. I told you not to make it public. Yes, your highness, this general will obey. Big brother, you get on the horse. We are going into the city. Qin Yin smiled. Lin Muyu finally felt safe. A large group of cavalrymen surrounded the two of them as they slowly entered Muyu City. Muyu City was one of the three major cities in the north of the empire. Along with Qihai City and Tongtian City, it was one of the northernmost cities. The climate here was much colder than that of Lanyan City, and the Iron Army of the Empire was forged here. When Qin Jin ascended the throne, the world was in chaos. The northern desert invaded and the southern barbarians invaded the north. At that time he married Su Muyun's daughter, Su Yun. She was the Empress of Jingda, and also Qin Yin's mother. Now that the world was settled, this marriage was more like an iron chain that bound Lanyan City and Muyu City together. After entering the city, Lin Muyu looked around. The city was orderly, and the public security was even better than that of Lanyan City. Moreover, she could see smiles on the faces of the commoners on the streets, which made Lin Muyu very pleased. The smiles on the people's faces showed that they were not under great pressure. Duke Muyun's governance ability was remarkable. After walking on the street for nearly 20 minutes, a group of armored cavalry approached from the front. There seemed to be nearly 1,000 of them. A middle-aged man who was about 45 years old or so, dismounted from his horse and walked forward with a smile on his face. He said, I, Su Qin, pay my respects to Her Highness Yin. Qin Yin giggled and dismounted from the horse. She held his arm and said with a smile, Uncle, you are too kind, Xiao Yin. Get up quickly. Su Qin laughed and looked at Qin Yin. Su Qin laughed heartily. He looked Qin Yin up and down and said, The last time I saw you, little Yin, you were only 15 years old. Now you're already so slender and elegant. No wonder there are rumors in the empire that little Yin is the #1 beauty in the world. Qin Yin said with a smile, Uncle, let me introduce you. This is Lin Muyu, my father's adopted son and Xiao Yin's adopted brother. Lin Muyu dismounted from the horse and walked forward. She cupped her fists respectfully and said, Greetings, Commander Su Qin. Su Qin was the only son of Duke Muyun. He controlled the 100,000 Iron Blade army. In terms of military power, few people in the world could beat him. You are too polite. Su Qin cupped his hands and stepped forward. His fists were overflowing with dou qi. The distance between his fists and Lin Muyu's was about 10 centimeters. The dou qi quickly collided. This made Lin Muyu quite surprised. This uncle wanted to test her ability the moment they met? So she gathered her strength and pure dou qi came out of her body. In just a few seconds, Su Qin was forced to take a few steps back. A wave of air spread out with Lin Muyu as the center. Who won and who lost was very clear. Su Qin's strength was only at the first heavenly layer while Lin Muyu had already stepped into the second heavenly layer. In addition to the difference in martial arts, Lin Muyu was stronger by more than one level. Sure enough, a young hero. Su Qin laughed out loud. The legendary second ranked of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, Lin Muyu really makes one have a whole new level of respect for you. Come on, you and Xiaoyin, come with me. We received you's letter early in the morning and father has prepared good wine and food to entertain you all. Thank you, Lord Commander. Lin Muyu was still respectful. This was the rule of this world that he had learned. Hide the edge. In this world of iron and blood, if one did not learn to hide the edge, they may die very early no matter how high their cultivation was. For example, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor was known as the world's #1, but he was too arrogant. In the end, didn't he fall in the 17th layer of purgatory? He really deserved it. As he thought of this, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor in the depths of Yi immediately woke up. Damn you brat, are you cursing me again? Your arm has just recovered and you have already forgotten your benefactor. Lin Ruoji, you are really an ungrateful king bastard. Lin Muyu did not scold him back. He just sank his Yi and sent the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor to the depths of Yi. He did not have to listen to his JJWW so he could have some peace of mind. Although Muyu City was known as one of the 7 great cities, there was no imperial palace or temporary imperial residence. There was only a duke's mansion that stood majestically in the center of the city. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yin stepped into the duke's mansion under the protection of a group of guards, from afar, an old man was already walking over with a cane. He was wearing an official robe that had a faint golden luster. He smiled and said, Su Muyun Xiaoyin is finally willing to see grandfather? Qin Yin immediately lifted her skirt and rushed over. She threw herself into Su Muyun's arms and sweetly called out, Grandfather! Su Muyun smiled so much that the wrinkles on his face were about to crack. He happily patted Qin Yin's shoulder and said, Oh, Xiaoyin has grown into a big girl. Be careful, grandfather's asthma is about to come out because of you. Qin Yin giggled and let go of Su Muyun. She said, Grandfather, you haven't gone to the capital to see Xiaoyin for so long. Don't you miss me at all? Of course I do. Why wouldn't I miss you? Su Muyun held his granddaughter's hand and looked at her carefully. He said, Xiaoyin, you look exactly like your mother. Sai, when grandfather looks at you, it's as if I'm looking at your mother. In the blink of an eye, so many years have passed. This old man feels as if Yun is still alive. Qin Yin's eyes turned red. Grandfather, don't say any more. Let me introduce you to someone. Su Muyun's eyes flashed. He looked at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, There's no need for introductions. This is Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, right? She really has an imposing appearance. His Majesty has good taste. He recognized such a good godson. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said respectfully, Subordinate Lin Muyu pays respect to Duke Yun. Good. Su Muyun helped Lin Muyu up and said with a smile, Let's go. I know that you and Xiaoyin must have disguised yourselves to safely come to Yinzhong province. You must have suffered a lot along the way, right? I've prepared food and wine for you. Come quickly. We can talk after we're full. Okay. Qin Yin nodded with a smile. In the back hall of the Duke's mansion, a large table of good wine and dishes had already been placed there. Because Her Royal Highness the Princess was the one eating, those who did not have a high enough status could not eat together with her. There were only 4 people, Su Muyun, Su Qin, Qin Yin and Lin Muyu. But it was good they could eat their fill. After they were full, Su Muyun and Su Qin looked at each other and stood up together. They took a few steps back and knelt on the ground. They said in unison, Su Muyun and Su Qin, listen to the imperial edict. Chapter 234. Lin Muyu initially thought that Qin Jin had only given Qin Yin a verbal edict. She did not expect that Qin Yin would open her spatial pouch and take out a golden scroll. Qin Jin's handwriting was written on the scroll. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes looked at her grandfather and uncle who were kneeling on the ground. She cleared her throat and said, Yunzhong Province's governor Duke Yun, listen to the edict. Immediately gather the main military forces of Yunzhong Province with this edict and promote Su Qin to be the commander-in-chief, commanding 100,000 steel blade troops. Su Yu to be the protector of the state general, commanding 60,000 Qin dragon troops. Send these 160,000 troops out of Yunzhong Pass and use this edict as an excuse to attack Cangnan Province. Enter Five Valleys City and disarm Long Qianlin's 100,000 troops. If he disobeys, kill without mercy. In addition, all the seized troops must be handed over to the Jiangnan general Lin Muyu. I hope that Duke Yun can put Lin Muyu's military skills in an important position and assign 50,000 steel blade troops to her command. Together we will pacify the chaos in Cangnan Province. After reading the edict, Qin Yin smiled and bowed. Grandfather, uncle, don't kneel. Quickly get up and receive the edict. Otherwise Xiaoyin will be embarrassed. Quickly get up. Su Muyun slowly stood up with a shocked expression on his face. Looks like His Majesty is really going to make a move against Hu Tianning this time, Qin Yin nodded. Yes. Not only did Hu Tianning secretly minted coins, he also controlled the military and political power. Even when Imperial Father repeatedly summoned him to the Imperial capital to report on his work, he pretended to be deaf and mute. It has already been 2 years since he paid tribute to the Imperial capital. Su Qin stood up, cupped his fists and sneered, Hu Tianning's rebellious intentions are clear. This time with His Majesty's personal edict, I want to see what Hu Tianning can do. Su Muyun furrowed his brows and said, This matter must be completed with the force of a thunderbolt. If we delay there will be changes. Qin, immediately order the 100,000 steel blade army to return to Muyu City. Your sister Su Yu's Zither Dragon army is only 1 day away. The entire army needs to enter Cangnan province secretly. With the speed of the Muyu City Steel Cavalry, we can reach the Five Valleys City within 3 days. With the Emperor's edict, we can seize all the military equipment in Sangnan Province. Su Qin nodded. Yes, father. I will do as you say, but what, uncle? Qin blinked her eyes and asked. Su Qin smiled and said, His Majesty's edict ordered me to hand over half of the Steel Blade Army's military power to you. Sai, the captaincy of the Steel Blade Army are all rough people. I'm afraid that you is new and will not be able to control them well. Qin was startled. She did not expect Su Qin to say this. But after thinking about it carefully, it was reasonable. Lin Muyu was silent, but she was thinking about many things. This time, Qin Jin used the Muyu city's military power to pacify the rebellious people in Sangnan province. At the same time, he wanted her to take part of the Muyu city's military power to achieve the effect of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This showed that Qin Jin did not trust Su Muyun and Su Qin completely. This game of power was too complicated, and Lin Muyu was already involved. It was impossible for Xiao Yao to stay out of it. Xiaoyin, Lin Muyu frowned and said, just as Lord Su Qin said, I am only a newly appointed general of the south. There is no way I can control an army of 50,000. I am also worried that I am not capable enough and will ruin things. But Imperial Father's edict. Qin pouted and said, all right then, I will listen to you. Lin Muyu turned around and cupped his fists at Su Qin with a smile and said, Commander Su Qin, don't worry. I, Lin Muyu, will not take a single soldier from the Muyu city. The 100,000 Steel Blade Army will still be under your command. This way the Steel Blade Army's combat power can be maximized. I'm just a little worried. Sangnan Province's General Long Qianlin is well versed in the art of war and has nearly 20,000 flying mount soldiers under him. If this matter cannot be resolved peacefully, a bloody battle will be inevitable. Su Qin looked at him gratefully and said, what do you think we should do? Lin Muyu said, how about this, let's take drastic measures? What drastic measures? Su Muyun narrowed his eyes and looked at this inexperienced young man. Lin Muyu smiled. Long Qianlin's biggest trump card is the 17,000 flying mount soldiers, so I plan to split the army into 2 groups. I will first go to Five Valley City and borrow the 10,000 flying mount soldiers from Long Qianlin with my dragon talisman. Then, Commander Su Qin and Commander Su Yu will lead the Cloud Province's army to suppress the border. Maybe Hu Tianning will give up resisting and admit defeat. Good. Yu patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, this is a good idea. I forgot that Commander Long Qianlin is the champion of the Sword Battle Assembly and has a dragon talisman in his hand. But, you don't need to go to Five Valley City. I received a letter not long ago saying that Long Qianlin has led nearly 20,000 flying mount soldiers to 3 Mountain Pass. You just need to go to 3 Mountain Pass and take 10,000 of his flying mount soldiers. Then Long Qianlin will naturally be a tiger without teeth. And? Lin Muyu looked at Qin and said, then Xiaoyin she. Su Muyun smiled slightly, don't worry, I will bring Xiaoyin to conquer Sangnan province. I only have 1 granddaughter, so naturally, I won't let her suffer any harm. You just go to 3 Mountain Pass. By the way, going alone is a bit weak. How about this? Su Qin, pick 3,000 cavalry from the Iron Blade Army and let you bring them to 3 Mountain Pass. This will ensure their safety along the way. Yes, father. Then it's decided. You will rest for the night and set off tomorrow morning. Our army will also set off tomorrow. Let's meet at Five Valleys City. If we succeed, I will bring Xiaoyin, Su Qin, and Su Yu to the imperial capital to see His Majesty. It's been a long time since I've gone back to Lanyan City to visit my relatives. Qin smiled faintly, and let's do it this way. Late at night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Green smoke lingered in the gilded incense burner, bringing with it a faint fragrance. The wing of the Duke's mansion in Muyu City was very exquisite and unusually spacious. Outside, there were 4 maids waiting to be summoned at any time. Lin Muyu sat on the side of the bed, slowly circulating the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll to speed up the recovery of her injuries. Qin sat not far away, holding a cup of hot tea and smiling as she breathed. Big brother Yu? She suddenly looked at Lin Muyu. What's wrong, Xiaoyin? Lin Muyu smiled. Qin pursed her red lips and softly said, Father intended to let you lead the troops to gain experience. Why did you refuse Father's good intentions? Originally, if we had insisted a little, Uncle would have divided half of the troops for you to command. Uncle has been in control of the Iron Blade Army for so many years. It's considered the most elite force in the entire continent. You actually didn't understand Father's painstaking efforts. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She walked over and sat next to Qin Yin, saying, "It's not that I didn't understand, but I saw Commander Su Qin's performance. Your uncle is not that generous. The Iron Blade Army is his flesh and blood. If you insist on cutting half of it, it's hard to guarantee that he won't be dissatisfied, right?" Qin Yin nodded lightly and smiled, saying, "What you said makes some sense. But this way. Perhaps after Cangnan province is recovered, the biggest beneficiaries will be uncle and grandfather. But that's fine too. We're a family after all." "Yes." Lin Muyu sighed. Qin Jin sent him to protect Qin Yin to Muyu City. This game of chess was a little big. He didn't know if his good intentions would achieve the desired results. Lin Muyu now admired this emperor more and more. Qin Jin was far from being as muddle-headed and incompetent as he looked on the surface. On the contrary, he was a schemer. In the main hall of the Duke's mansion, Su Qin knelt on the ground on one knee. His hand held the hilt of his sword and his expression was solemn. He said in a low voice, "Father, if I did something wrong, you can punish me directly." Su Muyun's expression was cold. He said lightly, "You know you did wrong?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" Su Muyun's pair of turbid eyes suddenly shone brightly. He said, "His Majesty wants you to split half of the troops and let Lin Muyu command. You actually dared to shirk the responsibility. Do you know that you have committed the crime of deceiving the emperor? As long as Xiao Yin goes back and says a word in front of His Majesty, I'm afraid you can't be the great general anymore." Su Qin was startled. He suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Then I have already done wrong. How should I remedy it? Father, please teach me." Su Muyun sighed and said, "Don't worry. You are Xiao Yin's uncle. Xiao Yin has also grown up and is sensible. She will naturally not do anything that is detrimental to you. As for that Lin Muyu, what's wrong with Lin Muyu? He knows how to read people's expressions at such a young age. Furthermore, I have observed him for a long time. I found that his breathing is very stable and his mood is not chaotic. Such a person will definitely be able to maintain his calm and composure in the face of great ups and downs. If the rumors are true and he did not fall into a disadvantageous position when fighting against Long Qianlin on the Fire Axe Mountain, then such a person is really too terrifying." Su Qin raised his head and smiled. "Father, you is His Majesty's godson and Xiao Yin's godson. The more skilled he is in both the pen and the sword, the more he will be able to protect the empire, right?" Su Muyun couldn't help but laugh. He nodded and said non-committally, "Perhaps you're right. Qin, you should pay more attention to this Lin Muyu in the future. Once he has any rebellious thoughts, he will be the biggest threat to the empire. If you really find out that he has rebellious thoughts one day, remember Father's words, kill him immediately without mercy." "Yes, Father, I will remember. And we will set off tomorrow. The cavalry will be in the front, and the infantry will bring up the rear. We must arrive at the Five Valleys city within 3 days. I hope that this time Hu Tianning will be executed without using any weapons. Otherwise, I am afraid that the people of the Cloud Province and Cangnan Province will encounter a great disaster." "And I understand." The next morning Lin Muyu woke up early. Lin Muyu's injuries had already recovered by about 70 to 80%. His left arm was brimming with energy and boundless strength. After the battle at Dao River, his overall strength did not decrease. Instead, it increased quite a bit. It could be considered as a blessing in disguise. Early in the morning, 3,000 cavalrymen of the Steel Blade Army stood in great numbers outside the city. Qin Yin personally handed an Iron Tiger tally to Lin Muyu. She repeatedly told him to be careful and pay attention to his safety. Lin Muyu naturally smiled and comforted her in every way possible, telling her not to worry. After giving the order, 3,000 cavalrymen quickly left the Muyu city and went straight to the Three Mountains Pass. Chapter 235. After galloping along the ancient path for a day and a night, they could see the Three Mountain Pass in the distance at noon on the second day. "General." A Chiliarch cupped his fists and said, "The Three Mountain Pass is the transportation hub of the Yunzhong Commandery and the ancient path. It's easy to defend and hard to attack. I'm afraid Long Qianlin has already received the news of Yushu's arrival. And follow me into the pass in a while." "Yes." Another Chiliarch said worriedly, "If Long Qianlin has any rebellious thoughts, General shouldn't enter the pass. It's too dangerous. How can General take the risk? Don't worry. Lin Muyu untied the dragon spirit sword on her back and held it in her hand. She smiled and said, "You guys can camp outside the pass. I'll go in alone. Wait for me." "No. I'll follow General into the pass. If we're going to die, we'll die together. There's no one in Muyu City who's afraid of death," he said firmly. Lin Muyu nodded in appreciation. "Good. Then the 3 Kiliarchs will follow me into the pass to show our sincerity." Yes. The 3-mountain pass was located between 3 peaks. It was about 10 meters high and the walls were built with huge rocks that weighed thousands of kilograms. The walls were covered with withered vines. There were flags fluttering above the pass. It was Long Qianlin's flag with a big long character that was very conspicuous. Lin Muyu slowly approached the city with the 3 senior generals and shouted from afar, "General of the South, Lin Muyu, request to see General Long Qianlin. Please open the gate for us." Creak. The drawbridge was lowered and the guards cupped their fists and said, "General Long invites sir to enter the pass for a chat." "Many thanks." They rode their horses into the pass and found that the interior of the 3-mountain pass was very spacious and well organized. More than 10,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount camp were stationed inside and the shouts from the training ground were earth-shattering. In the depths of the camp, a row of cavalry galloped over. Long Qianlin was at the front in golden armor and holding a spear. He laughed and cupped his fists and said, "Sir Lin Muyu, it's been a long time. I didn't expect you to come to the 3-mountain pass. Are you looking for me to drink?" "Of course not." Lin Muyu looked at the situation inside the pass. The flying cavalry camp's supply troops were preparing their rations and weapons, and they were about to set off. He couldn't help but ask, "Sir Long Qianlin, where are you planning to go after breaking camp?" Long Qianlin looked calm and said with a smile, "I heard that a group of bandits has been causing trouble in the villages and towns within the borders of Wugu City. Therefore, under the orders of the governor, I'm going to lead the Flying Mount Battalion back to Wugu City to eliminate the bandits." "Oh, I see," Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "but I also have urgent military news here. A group of wandering mercenaries are attacking the innocent people of Cloud Middle Commandery. I have been ordered by His Majesty to bring the Dragon Talisman to Sir Long Qianlin to borrow troops to eliminate the bandits." "Borrowing soldiers from me?" "That's right. Can I lend you 10,000 fierce soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion?" Lin Muyu took out the Dragon Talisman. The exquisite commander's talisman glowed with a moving luster under the sunlight. "This." Long Qianlin frowned and muttered to himself. After a long while he said, "But I have been ordered by the governor to break camp and return to Wugu City as soon as possible." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "The Dragon Talisman was bestowed by His Majesty. Sir Long Qianlin, may I ask, is the Flying Mount Battalion the Empire's army or the governor's army?" Long Qianlin looked aghast and hurriedly cupped his fists respectfully and said, "Of course it's the Empire's army." "Sir Lin Muyu, you're giving me too much credit." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, "Since that's the case, why aren't you willing to hand over the Flying Mount Battalion to me?" Long Qianlin's expression was uncertain. He had already thought of many things. Lin Muyu urged her horse closer and said in a low voice, "A great building is about to collapse. A wise man submits to circumstances. Could it be that Sir Long Qianlin is really willing to see these elite warriors of the Flying Mount Battalion become a pile of desolate bones under the rule of power?" Long Qianlin gritted his teeth even more and confirmed his thoughts. He raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and asked, "Has His Majesty really made up his mind? Privately minting coins is a grave crime. Don't you understand?" "Sigh." Long Qianlin sighed. At the same time, his palm gently moved to the hilt of his sword. The group of Flying Mount Battalion guards at the side also looked fiercely at Lin Muyu and company. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. With a soft grunt, a golden gourd appeared in his palm. He held the golden gourd and said with a smile, "That's right. There are only 3 of us who entered the pass. You, Long Qianlin, can kill the 3 of us without batting an eyelid, but Duke Yun, His Highness Yun, Suqin, Suyu, and the entire Yunzhong province know that I, Lin Muyu, have come to 3-mountain pass to borrow soldiers. You want to kill me, but you want the entire 3-mountain pass to be buried with me. Is it really worth it?" Long Qianlin's expression was extremely pained. Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "You are a person who loves soldiers. The Flying Mount Battalion is one of the few elite divisions of the Empire. They should be fighting all over the country and defending our territory. Do you want the Flying Mount Battalion to become a rebel army and die without a burial ground because of your mistake? This sentence hit the nail on the head. Long Qianlin was indeed a general who used troops like a god, but he was also a person who loved soldiers like they were his own children. Forget it, Long Qianlin sighed. He looked up at the sky and said, if it is preordained by the heavens, then I, Long Qianlin, have betrayed the heavens and the earth. Since Sir Lin Muyu has the dragon talisman bestowed by His Majesty, then I, Long Qianlin, entrust all 17,000 brave soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion to you. I hope you can treat these brave soldiers well. No matter how many unpardonable crimes the governor and I, Long Qianlin, have committed, these soldiers are innocent. They are all soldiers who are loyal to the Empire. I know. Lin Muyu looked at him deeply and said, I guarantee with my life that these 17,000 brave soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion will be safe. All right, thank you very much, Long Qianlin shouted. All the cavalry commandants of the Flying Mount Battalion, come over here. The cavalry commandants of the Flying Mount Battalion were Kiliarchs and were also the ones who had the most direct control over the military. Very soon, all 17 cavalry commandants gathered in front of them. Their warhorses neighed as they looked at Long Qianlin solemnly. Long Qianlin reluctantly took out the tiger tally from his bosom, raised it high and shouted word by word, always remember, the Flying Mount Battalion is the army of the Empire. You and I are soldiers of the Empire. We will never betray the people or our homeland. From today onwards, the person you need to follow is Sir Lin Muyu and not me, Long Qianlin. Remember, don't seek revenge for me and don't resent anyone. Your mission is to protect the Empire's territory. Long Qianlin turned around and handed the tiger tally to Lin Muyu. His eyes were red as he said, from today onwards, the Flying Mount Battalion will be entrusted to you. All the cavalry commandants looked emotional and shouted, we are willing to follow the general forever. The general can't abandon us like this. Long Qianlin shouted in a low voice, all of you shut up. Remember, you are the soldiers of the Empire, not the soldiers of me, Long Qianlin. That's all I have to say. 3 Mountain Pass Imperial Guards, assemble and follow me. He turned his horse and left. Lin Muyu hurriedly asked, Long Qianlin, where are you going? Long Qianlin turned around. His handsome face was filled with helplessness and despair as he said, the Five Valleys city has changed. Governor Hu Tianning has known me for a long time and has shown me great kindness. He has admonished me to the death and fought to the death. I want to return to the Five Valleys city and die in battle as my final gratitude to the governor. Are you going to rebel with Hu Tianning? Lin Muyu shouted. Do I have a choice? Long Qianlin was furious. Lin Muyu raised the tiger tally and shouted, Flying Mount Battalion, listen up. Take down Long Qianlin. Long Qianlin suddenly drew his sword and shouted, I want to see who dares to stop me? Long Qianlin. Lin Muyu raised her voice and said, perhaps Hu Tianning originally didn't want to resist the army of Muyu City, but your going is tantamount to giving him hope. Do you know that you are helping the evildoer? Do you know how many soldiers will die tragically in Five Valleys City, how many wives will lose their husbands, and how many children will lose their fathers for your insignificant gratitude? Long Qianlin suddenly trembled. He was dressed in military attire, but tears were flowing down his face. He suddenly sheathed his sword and said, then I will go alone. If I have to die, I, Long Qianlin, will die alone. No one can stop me. With that, the warhorse raised its front hooves and flew out of 3 Mountain Pass. Looking at Long Qianlin's back, Lin Muyu's expression was a little lonely. She frowned and said, all commandants gather. Prepare to assemble the troops and follow me out of the pass. The commandants were dumbfounded. With Long Qianlin gone, Lin Muyu had become the highest-ranking person here. They were stunned for a moment, then they all crossed their right hands in front of their chest and saluted, yes, my lord. In the afternoon, the 17,000 Flying Mount Battalion soldiers and the 3,000 cavalry of Muyu City gathered together. The military might was greatly boosted, and they now had an army of 20,000. Lin Muyu did not lead this group to Five Valleys City. Instead, he took them straight to Silver Fir City. Silver Fir City was not far from Five Valleys City, and it would allow the Flying Mount Battalion to avoid the chaos of war. At the same time, it could sit between Five Valleys City and Lanyan City. In any case, this Flying Mount Battalion could not be handed over to Su Muyun and Su Qin. They arrived at Silver Fir City in the evening and set up camp outside the city. A group of commandants from the Flying Mount Battalion was sullen, so Lin Muyu called for an impromptu meeting to appease them. He also promised these generals that after the incident at Five Valley City, he would do his best to beg the emperor to save Long Qinlin's life. In fact, from a moral point of view, Lin Muyu also hoped that Long Qinlin's life could be saved. Among the 7 divine generals of the empire, Du Hai was iron-blooded and Xiangyu was cruel. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and the others did not guard the borders. Lin Muyu had also heard of the other generals. Very few of them would treat human life as a big deal. This continent really needed a benevolent general like Long Qinlin. After nightfall, a messenger bird quietly landed at the head of Lin Muyu's bed. She took the letter tube. There was a piece of paper inside with a line of words written on it. Milord, the captain of the Flame Dragon Mercenary Band by Lixing has led 9,000 Flame Dragon mercenaries, and together with 7,000 mercenaries from the Ghost Domain Mercenary Band, a total of 16,000 people have surrounded the Dragon Rocky Mountain. They have threatened to destroy the Longdan army camp. Our army can only defend and not leave. They hope that Milord can send reinforcements immediately. Luo Yu, the Longdan army camp has been surrounded. Lin Muyu let out a sigh. It just so happened that she had an army of 20,000 cavalry under her command. It could be put to good use. She quickly wrote back, defend and not leave. Wait for reinforcements. Chapter 236. On Dragon Rocky Mountain, the flames of war spread. The foot of the mountain was surrounded, and all kinds of flags were fluttering. The Flame Dragon Mercenary Corps and the Ghost Mercenary Corps were the 2 largest unregistered wandering mercenary corps in the North Ridge province. They were also known as the 2 largest rogue corps in the capital. In their eyes there was no law at all. The only rule was the survival of the fittest. Moreover, the power of these mercenary corps was so strong that the local army of the Qin Empire could do nothing to them. They just let them fight and annex each other. As long as these wandering mercenaries did not attack the government, they would not cause too much chaos. In the big tent of the Flame Dragon Mercenary Corps, the captain, Bailey Xing, was wearing a fiery red armor. He held a scimitar with his bare arms and held a maid in his arms. He picked up a piece of meat with the scimitar and fed it to the maid. Although the maid was smiling, she was trembling all over. If she was not careful, the scimitar would pierce through her head. This kind of thing was not uncommon. Good girl. Bailey Xing smiled and grabbed the maid's chest. He said with a smile, we have surrounded Dragon Rocky Mountain and cut off their water supply. Let's see how long Luo Yu and Fengshi can hold on. At the table opposite him, a general in a leather robe also held a beautiful woman in his arms. It was Li Sihua, the captain of the Ghost Mercenary Corps. His face was crisscrossed with more than a dozen scars. His palm moved up and down the legs of the beautiful woman in his arms. He sneered with disdain and said, it is said that the founder of the Longdan army camp is Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan. Isn't Captain Bailey afraid that Lin Muyu and the Imperial Guards will make trouble for you? Bailey Xing couldn't help laughing. The Emperor has the final say in Lanyan City, but in the dragon-seeking forest, does he still have the final say? The Imperial Guards. Bah. The Imperial Guards are nothing in the dragon-seeking forest. I have killed so many people, but I have never killed an Imperial Guard. If Lin Muyu really dares to come, I will not let him leave. Brother Li Sihua, are you afraid? Li Sihua raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, what am I afraid of? We have a total of 16,000 soldiers. How many people are there on Dragon Cliff? As long as we destroy the Longdan army camp, I'll say it first, all of their warhorses and weapons will belong to our Ghost Domain mercenary group. Bai Lixing nodded. Got it. You're really troublesome. You can have it, but this mountain and the prisoners of war in the Longdan army camp will all belong to me. What do you think? Great. Let's destroy the Longdan army camp first, then the Tyrant Blade mercenary group, and then the Sacred Flame mercenary group. Then no one in the North Ridge province will dare to challenge us. Let's drink. Let's drink and wait for Luo Yu to come down the mountain and surrender. Yes, Just as the 2 of them were happily drinking, a mercenary suddenly opened the tent flap and walked in. He knelt down nervously and said, Captain, something bad has happened. Why are you in such a hurry? You're ruining my mood. Bai Lixing raised his eyebrows. Captain, the scouts have reported that about 20,000 soldiers of the Empire carrying the flag of the Flying Mount Camp are charging in the direction of Dragon Cliff Mountain. They're less than 5 kilometers away from here. They'll arrive in 10 minutes. What? Bai Lixing couldn't sit still. He pushed away the maid in his arms, stood up and shouted, "How is that possible? Isn't the Flying Mount camp stationed in Sangnan province? What are they doing in the North Ridge province? Besides, we pay tribute to that old fox Hu Tianning every year. What does he mean by doing this?" The messenger trembled and said, "Captain, the person leading the Flying Mount camp isn't Long Qianlin. If it's not Long Qianlin, who else can it be? Don't tell me Hu Tianning is leading the troops personally?" No, it's Lin Muyu. Bullsh *T. Lin Muyu and Long Qianlin have fought before. How could he be leading the Flying Mount camp? The scout must have made a mistake. This group of bastards dared to drink when they went out to be sentries. I'll skin them alive when I get back. The messenger was on the verge of tears. Regiment commander, the scout said that what he saw was absolutely true. They are all heavy cavalry, and they will be able to reach the foot of the mountain in 10 minutes. We can't just sit here and wait for death. Bai Lixing roared and kicked the table away. His face was pale. He said, "What can we do in 10 minutes? Li Sihua stood up and said loudly, "Pass down my order. The Ghost Mercenary Corps is to assemble immediately and retreat to the west. We can't stay here any longer." Bai Lixing said angrily, "Li Sihua, what do you mean? Are you going to be a coward at this critical moment? I was forced to come here by you. I don't want to be buried with you." Li Sihua grabbed his long sword and rushed out of the camp. He mounted his horse and shouted, "Ghost Mercenary Corps retreat." But not far away a platoon leader said with a bitter face, "Commander, we can't retreat anymore. A group of heavy cavalry from Muyu City has blocked our path of retreat, and hundreds of our brothers have already been shot dead." "What?" Li Sihua's body trembled. "Damn it, let's fight them. Lin Muyu, I'll *CK your grandma." At the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain, the two mercenary corps were in a mess. But at this moment, the gate on the mountain suddenly opened. Luo Yu led about 5,000 plus heavy cavalries from the Longdan army camp and attacked from the foot of the mountain. From the east, west and south, the rumbling of war drums could be heard. The Empire's military flags were fluttering in the wind. Numerous elite cavalries had already surrounded them. Most of the mercenary groups were infantrymen. How could they escape? Even if they tried to escape, they would only become the target of the cavalry's attacks. Bai Lixing and Li Sihua were not stupid. Fighting with 20,000 regular cavalrymen on an open field was simply courting death. Moreover, there was still the courage of Dragon Battalion's cavalrymen behind them, who were no weaker than regular soldiers. Hua! A white flag was raised in Bai Lixing's hand. With an ashen face he said loudly, "Fiery Dragon. Fiery Dragon Mercenary Corps is willing to surrender, willing to surrender. We surrender, please spare our lives." Amidst the clanking sounds, 16,000 people from the two mercenary corps actually surrendered without a fight. Their weapons were thrown on the ground. The mercenaries were so scared by the regular soldiers that their faces turned pale. They knelt on the ground and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Lin Muyu rode out of the crowd with a few captain cavalry. She couldn't help but laugh secretly. What a motley crew. With this kind of combat power, they actually dare to occupy the mountain and call themselves kings. "It's ridiculous," one of the captain cavalry laughed and said, "General, they must have been frightened by the reputation of the Flying Mount camp." Another commandant wiped the bloodstains off his saber and said with a smile, "I don't think so. They must have been scared out of their wits by the hundreds of people we killed earlier. We killed hundreds of them, but we didn't even lose 10 of our own men." Lin Muyu rode over and looked at Li Sihua and Bai Lixing. She asked, "You two are the commanders of the Fiery Dragon Mercenary Corps and the Ghost Hunter Mercenary Corps?" "Yes." Bai Lixing knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. "I'm Bai Lixing, the commander of the Fiery Dragon Mercenary Corps. I'm willing to lead my 9,000 brothers to surrender to the Longdan army camp. Please accept us. I heard that the Longdan army camp has the positions of commander, deputy commander, dragon commander and tiger commander. I, Bai Lixing, only want to be a dragon commander." Lin Muyu looked at him disdainfully and said with a faint smile, "But the Longdan army camp only wants dragons, not dogs. Commander Bai Lixing, how many bad things have you done? Do you still want to join the Longdan army camp?" Bai Lixing hurriedly said, "I didn't do that. Don't listen to other people's nonsense." At this moment Luo Yu and Fingxi rushed over. After cupping their fists, Luo Yu sneered and said, "My lady, this Bai Lixing has been tyrannical in his area of influence for so many years. He is known as a local tiger. It is said that he has 52 concubines and his hands are full of blood debts. A month ago they slaughtered a village in Linzhong Commandery. That night, Bai Lixing killed 17 people with one saber. I see. Lin Muyu turned over and got off the horse. She raised her hand and pulled out the dragon spirit sword. She smiled at Bai Lixing and said, "Turn your head away. It's better if you don't see this kind of scene." Bai Lixing trembled all over. He raised his head and said, "My lady, you want to kill me?" "Yes." "You want to kill me?" Bai Lixing suddenly revealed his fierceness. He grabbed the scimitar and rushed over. However, Lin Muyu's speed was faster. She gently swung her left arm, and a faint golden dragon coiled around it. The blow directly hit Bai Lixing's back. Suddenly, Bai Lixing spat out a mouthful of blood and knelt on the ground again. He didn't have any strength to fight back. Swoosh! The blade swept past and a head rolled out. Bai Lixing had been decapitated cleanly. A group of flying Mount Battalion's commandants were stunned. They could see that Bai Lixing's strength was not bad. He was already at the third firmament of the Earth realm. However, such a strong man didn't even last one round under Lin Muyu's sword. In an instant they were in awe. Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yin, wasn't as gentle as she looked. Once she became ruthless, she wasn't inferior to Long Qianlin. Behead Li Sihua of the Ghost Domain mercenary group. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. She said, "Let these mercenaries identify each other. Behead all those who have killed civilians. The rest who are willing to stay in the Longdan army camp can stay. Those who are unwilling can be dismissed. From now on, the Flame Dragon mercenary group and the Ghost Domain mercenary group will no longer exist in this world." Luo Yu smiled slightly. "Yes, my lady." Feng Shi led everyone to do as she said. At this time, a flying Mount Battalion's commandant walked forward and whispered, "General, isn't it a little too cruel?" Lin Muyu didn't deny it. She said, "Yes, but so what? A life for a life. This is my rule." My lady is wise. In just half a day, 2 mercenary groups ranked 6th and 8th among the top 10 mercenary groups in Northridge Province disappeared. More than 500 people were executed on the spot, more than 11,000 people were dismissed, and more than 4,000 people were selected to join the Longdan army camp. At this point, the Longdan army camp had nearly 14,000 soldiers. It had become the most powerful mercenary group in Northridge Province. Moreover, it had a registered identity and was in existence that complied with the Empire's laws. While Luo Yu and the others were arranging people to bury the corpses, Lin Muyu had already mounted her horse. She ordered, "Flying Mount Battalion, return to Silver Fir City." The majestic heavy cavalry left Dragon Rocky Mountain in the blink of an eye. Perhaps there were more important things waiting for them. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.